Aikolo, Fudo, and Magahara Daisumi are on a date at the park. Daisumi has brought cookies she made for Fudo. She baked them this morning and isn't sure if they'll suit Fudo's taste. Fudo eagerly tries one and says they taste amazing. Daisumi is surprised but relieved that Fudo likes her cookies. As Fudo gazes at her, Daisumi asks what's on his mind. He says that being able to eat cookies made by his girlfriend on such a sunny day makes him feel like the happiest man in the galaxy. Daisumi calls him dramatic. Meanwhile, at the bottom of the cliff, the Gelatos are locked in battle against their enemies. Gelato 5 consists of 5 members: Blue, Yellow, Pink, Green, and Red, who is their leader. Gelato Blue takes down opponents with punches and kicks, while Gelato Yellow defeats enemies with powerful strikes. Gelato Pink shoots the enemies with her pistol, and Gelato Green's super punches clear the battlefield. Explosions echo around the cliffside as the fight continues. Back at the park, Fudo can't take his eyes off Daisumi, who looks stunning. He feels he could stare at her for hours. Daisumi, however, feels uneasy and asks him not to look at her like that, especially without blinking. She tells Fudo not to misunderstand. She doesn't dislike him, but she's just not used to it. Fudo has a serious request for Daisumi. He explains that relationship experts recommend couples hold hands, and he suggests they try it. Daisumi is taken aback, saying it's impossible because it's too soon for them. After all, this is only their 3rd date. Fudo counters by saying statistics show that couples usually hold hands by their 2nd or 3rd date. Daisumi is amazed at how bold couples in the world can be. Fudo extends his hand, but Daisumi hesitates. Their hearts pound as they wait for the moment. Slowly, Daisumi begins to reach for his hand. Just as their hands are about to meet, Gelato Blue suddenly appears and asks if Gelato Red is okay. Immediately, Fudo and Daisumi switch into battle mode. Fudo is Gelato Red, the leader of Gelato 5, while Daisumi is the combat commander of the secret organization Gakkao, known as the Princess of Death. Despite belonging to opposing factions, they've crossed the boundaries of their organizations to form a forbidden relationship. Their battle mode appears intense, but Gelato Blue decides not to interfere and leaves it to Gelato Red before returning to the fight below the cliff. Afterward, Fudo and Daisumi end their battle mode. Fudo points out that they were actually holding hands during the fight. Daisumi is touched and can't believe they managed to do it. She marks the date of their hand-holding in her notebook. Daisumi is Fudo's first girlfriend, and he's grateful he had the courage to confess back then. A week earlier at Gelato 5's headquarters, Fudo was exercising in the morning when Arisugo Haru Gelato Pink approached him with a towel. Fudo thanked Haru and she invited him to a meeting. On their way there, they saw Ogino Hayato Gelato Blue trying to charm a girl. Hayato was enthusiastically asking her out, suggesting karaoke or a club, and boasting that she'd fall for him once she saw him dance. Unfortunately for him, the girl declined, claiming she was busy. Hayato persisted, leaving her no choice but to punch him. Haru and Fudo continued to the meeting room. On the way, they ran into Jinguji Misaki, Gelato Yellow, and Todoroki Dago Gelato Green. The team gathered just in time and headed into the meeting room. Professor Big Gelato, the leader of Gelato 5, was already there to welcome them. Daigo handed him the croissants the professor had requested, a snack intended for everyone during the meeting. The professor displayed an image of Death Princess Daisumi. She was a powerful combatant from Gakkao who had appeared 6 months ago. Gakkao, a secret organization aiming for world domination, had become a much more formidable enemy since her arrival. Professor Big Gelato warned the team to be careful. Suddenly, an alarm went off, signaling that Gekko's secret activities had been detected. The alarm ordered the Gelato team to depart immediately. At that moment, members of Gakkao, including the monster Culver and Bear, Death Princess, and the Moonlight Soldier troops, appeared in a park. Civilians hid in fear. The Gelato team arrived just in time to protect the people. They transformed using their freeze change ability, turning into Gelatos in green, pink, yellow, blue, and red. Together, they proudly declared themselves the freezing Sentai Gelato 5. Gelato Red proclaimed that anyone who underestimated them would pay the price. Unfazed, the Gakkao monsters declared that today was the day they would take revenge and ordered their soldiers to attack. Gelato Red used his Strawberry Impact sword to defeat enemies in a single powerful slash. Gelato Yellow fought back with his Megaton Lemon Crush hammer, smashing through the attacking soldiers. Gelato Pink unleashed a volley of arrows from her Sky Peach Rain bow, taking out surrounding enemies. Gelato Green used his Vacuum Pistachio Strike, causing explosive damage to those nearby. Meanwhile, Gelato Blue skillfully wielded his twin soda slash knives, cutting down enemies as they approached. The Gelato heroes were incredible, quickly eliminating Gekko's soldiers. However, the real challenge began as Culver and Bear and Death Princess stepped forward. Gelato Red instructed the rest of the team to handle Culver and Bear while he faced Death Princess one-on-one. The battle between Gelato Red and Death Princess was fierce. She swung her flail with incredible strength, disarming Gelato Red's sword. The two engaged in hand-to-hand combat, their skills equally matched. Gelato Red managed to trip Death Princess, but her agility was unparalleled. She balanced herself mid-air and countered with a double kick, sending Gelato Red flying backward. Their power and abilities were evenly matched, making them perfect rivals. Just as their fight was about to continue, Culver and Bear raised a white flag, signaling his surrender. He ordered all Gekko forces to retreat immediately. Before leaving, Death Princess acknowledged Gelato Red as the only one capable of matching her strength, calling it fate. She smiled at him and said, "Until we meet again." Gelato Red was left stunned by her words. That afternoon, Fudo resumed his training. Professor Big Gelato observed him and admired his dedication, noting how Fudo fought battles in the morning and trained again in the afternoon. The professor even referred to him as a model hero who constantly worked hard. Fudo trained tirelessly until the evening, ending his routine by consuming a raw egg to maintain his stamina. The professor, bewildered, asked what kind of life Fudo was leading since it seemed to revolve entirely around muscle training. Fudo admitted that there was something on his mind. Professor Big Gelato assumed Fudo was contemplating world peace or the meaning of justice. To his surprise, Fudo revealed that he was thinking about a girl he liked. Shocked, the professor pressed for details, and Fudo confessed it was love at first sight. This was the first time Fudo had ever fallen in love. Professor Big Gelato asked if Fudo had confessed his feelings yet. Fudo said it was impossible for him to confess because he was a hero and they lived in completely different worlds. Professor Big Gelato smacked him on the head, calling him an idiot. He reminded Fudo that there was nothing wrong with a hero falling in love since he was human too. The professor encouraged Fudo to express his feelings, saying love could help him grow as a person. Motivated by his mentor's words, Fudo quickly excused himself to go confess. Professor Big Gelato, who had always thought of Fudo as nothing more than a muscle-obsessed guy, was taken aback. He now saw Fudo as a true man. Curiosity got the better of him, and he wondered what kind of girl could have stolen Fudo's heart. A nurse, perhaps? The professor chuckled to himself, admitting that he too had a thing for nurses. Fudo soon found Desumi and approached her privately, catching her off guard. Surprised, Desumi assumed Fudo was there to resume the earlier battle. She prepared herself, thinking it would be better to settle things right then and there. However, Fudo stood silently, making her suspicious. "What's with you?" she asked, growing impatient. Taking a deep breath, Fudo finally blurted out, "I love you." The confession shocked Desumi. Fudo explained that he had fallen for her the first time they met and wanted her to know how he felt. Desumi, still in disbelief, called him insane, reminding him that they were mortal enemies. Fudo insisted he wasn't crazy. Desumi, skeptical, wondered if he might have hit his head during the fight, but Fudo countered, saying he even had Professor Big Gelato's approval. Desumi didn't buy it. She accused Fudo of trying to trick her, thinking he knew she was inexperienced in love and was mocking her as a joke. Feeling insulted, Desumi swung her flail at him. Fudo dodged and protested, "That's not what I meant at all." Still enraged, Desumi called him a cunning demon and kept attacking, but Fudo refused to fight back, dodging her strikes instead. Desumi then claimed that no one could like her because her friends spread rumors that she ate raw bear meat. Fudo dismissed the rumor, pointing out that Desumi actually liked pancakes and pasta. Startled, Desumi demanded to know how he knew that, but she kept attacking him. She brought up another rumor, saying her friends claimed she drank wild boar blood, but Fudo shouted that it was untrue. Desumi preferred green smoothies. As she launched another barrage of attacks, Desumi exclaimed that her friends also gossiped about her going out at night to beat up strong men. Fudo corrected her again, saying she spent her nights doing Pilates. Infuriated, Desumi screamed that she was a killing machine from outer space and swung her flail with all her might. Fudo caught the flail mid-swing and calmly said, "No, you're a girl from Hakata." Desumi froze, stunned. "How do you know all this about me?" she asked. Fudo admitted that he had looked up all of her social media. He revealed that the account named Protemen that often commented on her posts was actually him. Fudo smiled and said, "You're not a killing machine." You take care of your nails, you love pretty accessories, and you change your perfume depending on your mood. Isn't that who you really are?" Hearing this, Desumi couldn't help but feel flustered. Desumi said that a girl should be swinging a flail, but Fudo replied that he would always be there to catch it. Desumi reminded him that they were enemies, but Fudo insisted there had to be a way for them to make it work. He then asked Desumi, "Will you be my partner?" Desumi immediately shot him down, saying it was impossible. However, Fudo kept assuring her that he was serious. Hearing his sincerity, Desumi's resolve began to soften, and she eventually accepted Fudo's love. Fudo was stunned that she had agreed. Desumi admitted that she had no idea what dating was supposed to be like. Fudo confessed he didn't know either because Desumi was his first love. By their third date, things were going smoothly. Desumi talked about her cat, surprising Fudo, who hadn't known she had a pet. She teased him, saying it was ridiculous that he didn't know about her cat. Fudo apologized, admitting there was still so much he didn't know about her. To make it up to him, Desumi took out her phone and showed him a picture of her cat. The cat's name was Halko, and she proudly said, "Isn't she just the cutest?" Fudo, however, was startled by the photo, not because of the cat, but because the mirror in the background showed Desumi's reflection clearly taken after she had just showered. Overwhelmed by the sight, Fudo couldn't hide his happiness. Desumi, oblivious to what Fudo was reacting to, assumed he was gushing over how cute Halko was. "You're being over the top," she said. "I'm not exaggerating at all," Fudo replied with a smile. "Just being here with you makes me happy." Blushing, Desumi shyly admitted that she felt the same. Still, Desumi reminded him that no one could know about their relationship. If anyone found out, they wouldn't be able to stay together, and it might even become national news. Fudo understood and promised to keep it a secret, even though he wasn't very skilled at hiding things. Desumi expressed her hope that someday they might live in a world where they could openly date. Fudo looked at her earnestly and said, "Desumi, I love you so much." Suddenly, Misaki, the yellow gelato, appeared at the top of the cliff and called out to Fudo, asking if he was done yet. In an instant, both Fudo and Desumi switched back to battle mode. Desumi launched a relentless attack on Fudo, hitting him with her Death Rumba technique, which sent him flying. Realizing she might have gone too far, Desumi hesitated. Misaki quickly rushed to Fudo's side to check on him. Fudo, lying on the ground, grinned and called Desumi incredible. He promised he would get her back next time and suggested they meet again soon. Desumi, smiling, accepted his challenge and said she'd be ready anytime, even the day after tomorrow. As Desumi left, Misaki asked Fudo if he was okay. He reassured her with a determined smile, saying he was just fine. And so began the forbidden love story between a defender of justice and a warrior from an evil organization. The Gecko forces launched another attack on Gelato 5. All the Gecko soldiers had been defeated, leaving only Desumi, the Princess of Death, for them to face. Daigo, the green Gelato, attempted to strike her, but Desumi effortlessly sent him sprawling to the ground. Finally, Fudo, the red Gelato, stepped forward to confront her. They lock eyes for a moment before beginning their battle. Desumi launched her attack, but Fudo kept evading her strikes. She landed a punch square on Fudo's chest with a sly smile. Suddenly, Fudo hurled Desumi into the air. She quickly swung her flail toward him, but Fudo easily deflected it. Desumi admitted that Fudo was much stronger than the rumors had suggested. Fudo, in turn, found himself captivated by Desumi's face. One morning, Hero TV aired an intense battle between Gelato 5 and Gecko. The action was extreme as the heroes of Gelato 5 fought for world peace. At the center of the coverage, the red Gelato was facing off against the Princess of Death, a clash between formidable warriors. Viewers at home cheered for Gelato 5. During their fight, Fudo discreetly signaled to Desumi the moves he was about to make. A feint with a left hook followed by a low right kick, and he asked her to be careful. Desumi responded with her own signal, indicating she would block the kick and counter with a high kick. She even told Fudo to duck at the right moment. With their plans set, they began their choreographed battle. Desumi smiled, complimenting Fudo on his skill. Fudo suggested they move to a different location. Hero TV followed their movements closely, speculating that they were preparing for an epic one-on-one showdown. The two moved behind a shipping container, glancing around to ensure no one was watching. It turned out that Fudo, the leader of Gelato 5, and Desumi, the leader of Gecko's combat forces, were secretly dating. They stopped fighting and began chatting. Fudo remarked that they were sitting farther apart than usual. Desumi replied that this wasn't unusual for her. Fudo moved closer, insisting that they usually sat much closer together. Desumi, flustered, asked him to stop approaching her. She explained that she had been moving around a lot that day and was worried she might smell sweaty. Ignoring her protests, Fudo moved closer and assured her that no matter how she smelled, he wouldn't back away. Desumi turned her back to him, feeling self-conscious. She was too nervous to meet his gaze, but occasionally stole glances at him. Fudo confessed he had never met a girl as enchanting as Desumi. Fudo then took out his phone and started taking pictures of her. Annoyed, Desumi asked what he was doing. Fudo admitted that he found her beautiful even when she was angry and kept snapping photos. Initially, Desumi tolerated it, but she soon lost her patience. She punched Fudo, demanding he stop. She suggested taking a photo together instead and grabbed her phone. They positioned themselves for a selfie, but their faces weren't fully in the frame. Desumi urged Fudo and moved closer. As they got closer, their hearts raced. This was undeniably the closest they had ever been during a meeting. Fudo marveled at the scary magic of the camera. The gentle breeze tousled Desumi's hair, and Fudo found himself mesmerized by her fragrance. Desumi told Fudo, who had his eyes closed, to open them. They took a selfie together, but suddenly, Misaki, the yellow gelato, called out to Fudo. Before Fudo could even pretend to resume their fight, Misaki was already standing in front of him. Misaki praised Fudo for defeating Desumi. It was only then that Fudo realized Desumi was pretending to be unconscious. Misaki continued to compliment him for his supposed victory. Fudo tried to persuade Misaki to leave the area, but she reminded him that they had a TV interview scheduled before returning to their base. A news helicopter had already arrived and started filming. A reporter quickly approached Fudo for an interview, broadcasting it live, which thrilled the kids watching at home. The reporter asked if Fudo had indeed defeated the Princess of Death and saved world peace. Fudo simply replied with a yes. The reporter then asked if the Princess of Death was as strong and fearsome as everyone said, and what Fudo's opinion of her was. Fudo answered that the Princess of Death was someone irreplaceable. He confessed that just seeing her made his heart race, that she kept him awake at night, and that he had spent entire days thinking about her. Hearing this, Desumi, who was hiding behind them, blushed deeply, her heart screaming in embarrassment. The reporter noticed a slight movement from Desumi and commented on it, but Fudo dismissed it, saying it was probably just her imagination. Desumi wished she could disappear at that moment, overwhelmed by the situation. The reporter then asked if the Princess of Death was a rival who motivated Fudo to grow stronger, given that he might be in the prime of his youth. She also asked if Fudo had a girlfriend, as many fans were eager to know. Fudo hesitated, wanting to say he did have a girlfriend. Suddenly, Misaki burst into laughter, saying it was impossible for Fudo to have a girlfriend since all he ever thought about from morning to night was training his muscles. The reporter seemed disappointed, noting that Fudo's adorable personality probably charmed many female fans. Misaki teased him further, saying he needed to understand women's hearts better. She jokingly announced that Gelato Red was opening a dating app where fans could go on virtual dates with him, and details would be displayed on TV. The reporter even expressed interest in trying out the app herself. After the interview ended, the Hero TV crew left. Fudo went back to Desumi, who was sitting by herself and pouting. Fudo asked if she was upset. Desumi denied being angry, but admitted she was annoyed, saying it was obvious Fudo was so popular with many female fans. Fudo assured her she didn't need to worry because he belonged to her and only her. Desumi didn't believe him. Fudo insisted he would do anything for her. Desumi asked if he really meant it, and when Fudo confirmed, she said she wanted to go on a date with him. She explained that she had always dreamed of going on a date with her boyfriend, and never thought she would get the chance. A date, she said, was an opportunity for a couple to spend time together and get to know each other better. Fudo confidently said that going on a date would be easy. Desumi was pleasantly surprised by his enthusiasm and agreed. Fudo suggested they meet at Central Park at 5 p.m. the next day. Overjoyed, Desumi hurried off. However, once she was gone, Fudo realized he didn't know what people actually did on dates. He started browsing the internet for date ideas, only to find an overwhelming number of suggestions: visiting a planetarium, going to an amusement park, watching a movie, having dinner, shopping, going to an aquarium, driving around, visiting a zoo, and many more. Fudo felt completely lost, unsure of what to choose, especially with the date happening the next day. Misaki approached Fudo and asked what he was doing, wondering if he was researching muscles again. Fudo caught a whiff of sake on Misaki and guessed she might be a little drunk. Misaki apologized for promoting the dating app on TV the day before, which had led Fudo to start learning about dating. Fudo admitted he didn't understand what an ideal date was supposed to be. Misaki reassured him that there were no strict rules for dating, and all he needed to do was think about activities they could enjoy together. Suddenly, Fudo felt a breakthrough as the rigid walls in his mind crumbled, and he finally grasped the essence of dating. The next day, Fudo arrived at Central Park, bustling with civilians. It seemed no one recognized his flawless disguise, ensuring his important date wouldn't be interrupted. As the time drew closer, he began to feel nervous. Desumi called out to him, apologizing for keeping him waiting. Fudo was mesmerized by Desumi's casual outfit, finding her absolutely stunning. Desumi admitted she felt a little shy meeting him like this in public. She complimented Fudo's disguise, saying his glasses and hairstyle suited him perfectly. Desumi then asked what they would be doing. Fudo confidently said he had planned everything and showed her his meticulously crafted date itinerary. They both got excited to start, with their first stop being a gym, specifically the Bisarka and Nico Gym, Gotana branch. At the gym, they worked out together, drawing attention from the other patrons, who praised how amazing both Desumi and Fudo looked. Fudo complimented Desumi, telling her that her triceps were really developing. Acting like her personal gym coach, he encouraged her further. Afterward, Fudo announced they would go for a run, surprising Desumi. The two ran side by side. Fudo realized that exercising together was much more fun than training alone, making this date feel extraordinary to him. As the sun began to set, they sat down on a bench. Fudo asked if Desumi was hungry and suggested they eat something. Desumi thought he was planning to take her to dinner, and she was thrilled at the idea. Fudo also mentioned wanting to have a meaningful conversation with her. Excited, Desumi stood up ready to go, but instead, Fudo handed her a low-calorie snack. He revealed he had packed plenty of such snacks in his bag. Fudo then said there was something he wanted to discuss with Desumi. With a serious tone, he asked, "What insect do you think would be the strongest if it were enlarged?" Desumi didn't respond. Instead, she excused herself to go to the restroom. Oblivious to her reaction, Fudo believed the date was going perfectly. He still had the main event planned, a human anatomy exhibit, which he was confident Desumi would enjoy. Suddenly, his phone rang. It was Misaki. She told him to forget her advice from the day before, admitting that she had been drunk and now realized there were indeed some rules to dating. Fudo asked her to share those rules with him for reference. Misaki explained that appearance mattered first. She guessed Fudo was probably wearing a tight tank top, which was a no-go. She advised him to dress neatly. Since girls often put effort into their appearance, he should avoid activities that would make them sweaty or dirty. She also recommended reserving a nice restaurant for dinner. Lastly, she emphasized the importance of simple conversation, such as talking about food. Fudo suddenly remembered the ridiculous insect question he had asked Desumi earlier and was struck by regret. After Misaki hung up, he blamed himself for ruining the date. Realizing this wasn't a proper date at all, he concluded it was no wonder Desumi had returned from the restroom. Feeling guilty, Fudo decided to go find her and apologize, vowing to plan a date that Desumi would genuinely enjoy. Fudo searched for Desumi everywhere, even checking behind bushes. Desperate, he begged silently for her to give him one more chance. Tears began to well up in his eyes when, out of nowhere, Desumi appeared in front of him. She looked at him curiously and asked, "What are you doing?" Fudo was taken aback and exclaimed, surprised to see Desumi had returned. Desumi explained that she had just come back from the store where she had gone to buy drinks. The shop was packed with people, so it took her some time. Eating those low-calorie snacks had made her mouth dry, so she bought drinks for both of them. She mentioned that she knew how it felt because she sometimes ate those snacks herself. Desumi then suggested they finally discuss the strong insects Fudo had mentioned earlier. Fudo blurted out, "That's impossible." Confused, Desumi asked what he meant by that. Fudo hesitantly asked if she didn't hate this date. Desumi looked puzzled and asked why he was acting so strange. Reluctantly, Fudo confessed everything to her. Hearing his story, Desumi burst into laughter, leaving Fudo unsure of how to react. He nervously asked if she wasn't mad at him. Desumi reassured him, saying, "How could I be mad at you?" She explained that now she knew Fudo had been just as nervous about the date as she was. Desumi expressed her happiness, saying she was grateful Fudo had gone to the trouble of planning the date for her. She admitted that she enjoyed spending time with him, even if others might think their date was a bit unusual. Smiling warmly, Desumi encouraged them to just relax and have fun. Fudo felt a rush of emotion as he looked at her, a feeling that reminded him of the first time they had truly connected. Lost in the moment, Fudo stood silently, which prompted Desumi to call out to him. They realized, somewhat awkwardly, that they were holding hands. Their hearts raced and their faces inched closer together when suddenly an emergency call interrupted them. The two of them quickly ended their date and hurried to respond to the situation. The monster Gecko, Culver, and Bear and his minions had arrived, seeking revenge against Gelato 5. Blue Gelato scoffed at their attempts, saying, "No matter how many times you come at us, the result will always be the same." The battle began, but Death Princess and Red Gelato stood frozen, caught up in their lingering feelings from the date. At Gecko's women's dormitory, pets were allowed. The dorm housed many female staff members working for the secretive Gecko Association. Desumi had a pet cat named Halcow, who was her beloved companion. Known to the world as Deaf Princess, a name that struck fear into many, Desumi at home was the complete opposite of her fearsome reputation. In her private moments, she was sensitive, clumsy, and prone to loneliness. She didn't even fully understand matters of romance and often poured her heart out to Halkao. She once shared with her cat how a rumor at work claimed she liked eating raw bear meat, which she found both amusing and absurd. One evening, Desumi returned to her room looking dazed. Halkao was concerned, but Desumi seemed enchanted, smiling more than usual. She had even started collecting pictures of Fudo, capturing his face when it appeared on TV, reading newspaper articles about red gelato, and preparing enthusiastically for their date. Her happiness was palpable, and she looked more radiant than ever. Desumi even decorated her room with a photo of her and Fudo together, cherishing the memory. Her affection for him was undeniable, and it was clear to anyone, especially Halkao, that Fudo had become an important part of her life. Misaki and Professor Big Gelato were deeply engrossed in a game of Uno, while Fudo was busy training his body. Professor Big Gelato asked Misaki if Gakko had shown any activity lately. Misaki replied that it had been 2 weeks of complete silence from them. With no battles to fight, things felt peaceful. Fudo agreed that peace was ideal and thought it was better if there were no fights. However, without battles, he could meet Desumi. Recently, Fudo hadn't been sleeping well. He felt deprived of Desumi's presence and decided he had to do something about it. Suddenly, the emergency alarm blared. The alert informed them that a new weapon development had been detected at Gakko's headquarters. The team had to infiltrate their base and destroy the weapon. This mission was extremely dangerous, practically a suicide mission, but someone had to do it. Since the pink and blue gelatos were away and the green gelato was on leave, it came down to either Misaki or Fudo. One of them had to stay behind for backup. Misaki volunteered to go, but Fudo insisted he should handle the mission. Misaki reminded him of the danger, but Fudo was determined. As Misaki tried to stop him, Professor Big Gelato asked her to understand how serious Fudo was. Fudo activated his transformation, becoming the red gelato, and set off for Gakko's base. Misaki called out to him, telling him to come back safely and calling him an idiot. Professor Big Gelato, however, called Fudo a true hero. Fudo was thrilled. This mission meant he could see Desumi again. Meanwhile, the Reaper Princess Desumi walked down the hallway as all the Moonlight Army soldiers saluted her. As she passed, a few soldiers whispered about her. They commented on her intense aura, which was more intimidating than usual, and assumed she was in a bad mood. But the truth was quite the opposite. Desumi was miserable because she hadn't seen Fudo in 2 weeks. Desumi asked the soldiers when they would fight the heroes again. Terrified, they misinterpreted her question as bloodlust and knelt before her, apologizing for not knowing the answer. Still distracted, Desumi recalled the horoscope she had seen on TV. It had predicted bad luck for Leos, stating they wouldn't meet the person they longed for, and that their lucky item was a cute bag. Following the advice, she carried a cute bag, but hadn't helped. Suddenly, Culverin Bear, a gecko monster, approached her and showed her a new weapon called the Neo-Culverin Cannon. He confidently declared that it would destroy the heroes. Culverin Bear then asked if Desumi had any dangerous items of her own. She replied that her bag was just an ordinary one. However, Culverin Bear misunderstood, believing it to be a cleverly disguised weapon. He called Desumi a terrifying woman, convinced her ordinary bag was a decoy, meant to lull enemies into a false sense of security. In truth, the bag only contained makeup. Hearing his comments made Desumi feel that she wasn't suited to cute things. As Desumi walked down the hall, Fudo suddenly appeared from the ceiling, startling her. He told her he had been searching for her because he missed her so much. Desumi admitted she was happy to see him too, but almost let her emotions take over. She quickly ushered him into her changing room to avoid being seen. Fudo was delighted to be there, commenting that the room was just as feminine as he'd imagined. Desumi asked why Fudo had done something so reckless. He confessed that he simply couldn't bear not seeing her. Desumi, surprised, admitted she had felt the same way but still believed his actions were too dangerous. Fudo pulled out a deck of Uno cards and invited her to play. Desumi, unable to resist, agreed, and the two began their game of Uno. Meanwhile, back at Gakko's base, Professor Big Gelato and Misaki were still waiting for news from Fudo. Misaki asked if there had been any updates, but there was no word yet. All they could do now was trust Fudo. Little did they know, Fudo was happily playing Uno with Desumi at that very moment. Desumi won the game and decided to give Fudo a punishment. She told him to hold out his hand, and he obeyed. Just as Desumi was about to slap his hand, Fudo remarked that her hand was warm. This immediately made Desumi's heart melt. She told him not to say such things because it made it hard to punish him. Suddenly, a report came in for the Reaper Princess. Desumi quickly moved Fudo's face out of the camera's view and sat on him to hide him. A soldier reported that an intruder had been detected in the base and reminded everyone to stay on high alert. Desumi assured him she understood and that they would remain cautious. The soldier mentioned that he thought he had seen the shadow of a man earlier, but Desumi brushed it off, saying he must have been mistaken. She laughed, joking that it would be impossible for the Reaper Princess to have a boyfriend, and ended the call. Afterward, Desumi apologized to Fudo and asked if he was okay. Before Fudo could respond, Culver and Bear burst into the changing room. Desumi quickly hid Fudo, but in her panic, she ended up stuffing them both into a box. The small, cramped space forced their bodies to press together. Fudo felt suffocated and started squirming. Desumi told him to stop moving so much, but Fudo complained that something was on his face, making it hard to breathe. He tried to remove it, but the movement caused the box to creak, catching Culver and Bear's attention. Just as Culver and Bear approached the box, Fudo finally managed to remove the object, which turned out to be a bra. Desumi screamed and slapped Fudo hard enough to send him flying out of the box. He crashed into Culver and Bear, causing the weapon the monster was carrying to activate. The weapon exploded, destroying Gakko's base. Meanwhile, a report came in stating that the mission was a success. The signal from the new weapon had vanished and Gakko's base was destroyed. Hearing this, Professor Big Gelato was overjoyed and praised Fudo's extraordinary efforts. Back at the now-burning Gakko base, Fudo and Desumi escaped to a nearby hill. Fudo apologized to Desumi, but she turned the apology back on herself, saying she should have welcomed him properly when he arrived. Desumi noticed a scratch on Fudo's cheek, but he assured her it was nothing. She asked him to crouch for a moment and then gently placed a bandage on his cheek. Fudo thanked her. He complimented the cute bag she was carrying, saying it suited her perfectly. Desumi beamed with happiness at the compliment. Fudo admitted that he should have thought of it earlier and handed Desumi his phone number, saying they could talk anytime now. Blushing, Desumi asked if it was okay to call him that night. Fudo agreed, telling her she could call him that evening. That night in her room, Desumi was nervously preparing to call Fudo. She tried to calm her racing heart, telling herself she just wanted to check that he got home safely. Finally, she dialed the number Fudo had given her. To her surprise, it was answered by Fudo's mother. In the background, Desumi could hear Fudo asking his mom to hand him the phone, explaining that it was for him. His mother scolded him for still being home when she had told him to go buy milk. Fudo finally took the phone and asked if it was Desumi. She firmly told him to get his cell phone, and Fudo quickly agreed. The Gakko monster, Culver and Bear, was busy fixing the Gakko base's gate when suddenly an announcement was made calling for a morning meeting, and all executives were required to attend in the conference room. Culver and Bear hit the gate so hard that the Gakko emblem on the door was knocked down. Gakko's supreme leader, Bosslar, led their regular meeting. He said that thanks to the hard work of everyone, Gakko had accumulated a lot of negative energy. Bosslar also mentioned that the birth of a new monster, Ultimate Phantom, was drawing near. The secret Gakko Association, led by Bosslar, used human negative emotions as a source of power to create the Ultimate Phantom, a monster designed to dominate the world. In order to collect the remaining negative energy they needed, Bosslar asked everyone to propose their next 3 targets. The Beast Princess pressed her button and said she didn't care about the targets, she just wanted to get to the fighting part. However, Bosslar reminded her that this meeting was for determining the targets. Next, it was Kuroyuri Kyoko, the Steel Princess's turn to speak. She wanted some time to think it over. Bosslar, annoyed, told her that if she needed time to think, she shouldn't have pressed the button. Then the Hot Princess pressed her button, but unfortunately, she couldn't speak. Bosslar was getting frustrated, so he asked them for a more practical suggestion. Desumi, the Death Princess, pressed her button and suggested that their next target should be the view of the city at night. Bosslar dismissed it, saying it was too abstract. Desumi pressed her button again and suggested an aquarium, but Bosslar refused because it would be difficult to fight indoors. Desumi didn't give up and pressed her button once more, proposing an amusement park. Bosslar grew even more annoyed, asking if Desumi was suggesting a date spot. Culver and Bear, the Gakko monster, chimed in, saying that amusement parks were filled with helpless people. Kyoko agreed, saying it would be a great place to rampage freely. The Beast Princess praised Desumi's sleigh idea. Finally, Bosslar agreed that their next target would be the amusement park, and Desumi was pleased with the outcome. Meanwhile, Fudo was reading a book on tips for using his new phone. Just then, his phone rang and he was clearly not used to the sound. He checked the message and saw that Desumi had sent him information about Gakko's next target, the amusement park they planned to visit, Yomiuraland. The two met at an old factory where Desumi jokingly wished that they could meet at a date spot for once. They began discussing different places for a date. Fudo suggested an aquarium, while Desumi was interested in the city's night view. The amusement park was also on the table, and Fudo jokingly called it a dream within a dream. The dream they had talked about earlier was finally coming true. Desumi sent a message telling him that the attack on the amusement park would take place this coming Sunday, which was only 3 days away. She also mentioned that she couldn't wait to meet him. Fudo laughed, teasing Desumi for leaking confidential information about her evil association. Fudo needed to respond, but he was still figuring out how to use his phone. Professor Big Gelato couldn't help but laugh at Fudo, who still didn't understand how to use it. Misaki asked what exactly Fudo was doing, and Big Gelato explained that Fudo had only started using his phone the day before. Misaki was shocked. She hadn't expected Fudo, the muscle man, to have a phone. As Fudo spoke into his phone saying that he would go to the amusement park on Sunday, Misaki began to suspect that something was up with him. She became curious and decided that she would investigate further later. On Sunday, Misaki and Haru disguised themselves and went to the amusement park. Misaki was eager to uncover Fudo's secret. Haru asked Misaki not to follow Fudo around because Fudo wasn't someone who would keep secrets. Misaki replied that even though Haru said that, she ended up coming along anyway. Haru tagged along because she didn't want Misaki to act rudely. Suddenly, they saw Fudo surrounded by kids asking to take photos with him. It turned out he was patrolling as usual. Haru praised Fudo for always thinking about world peace. Gekko Monster, Culver and Bear saw them and was puzzled. He wondered why a hero was there, someone wearing pink and yellow at the same time. He became suspicious, wondering if they had figured out Gekko's movements. Left with no choice, Culver and Bear decided to retreat and regroup, but Desumi said that since they had been spotted, it was time to fight. Desumi ran toward Fudo. When Fudo saw Desumi approaching, she apologized for being late. She almost called him by his name, but quickly corrected herself, calling him Red instead. Fudo activated his freeze change and transformed into Red Gelato. This caused the kids to panic. He immediately instructed everyone to take cover. The Gekko troops moved closer, and Culver and Bear praised Fudo for figuring out their plan. Misaki was surprised to learn that Fudo had come there knowing the enemy's plans. Haru said, just like she had told Misaki before, Fudo wouldn't keep things secret, and Misaki began to believe her. Misaki and Haru also activated freeze change, turning into yellow and pink gelatos. Just as Red Gelato was about to face Desumi, Misaki and Haru approached, saying they would help him. Fudo told them not to come closer, but Misaki and Haru attacked the Moonlight soldiers who were surrounding them. Misaki now believed Haru's words that Fudo was still the same as always. The Fudo Haru knew was honest, innocent, and always serious about everything. And that was why he was their leader. Fudo got ready to attack Desumi, but then they started talking about where to go for a date. Misaki and Haru continued to fight off the incoming enemies. Meanwhile, Fudo was enjoying the amusement park with Desumi. They rode the roller coaster, swings, spinning rides, carousel, and Ferris wheel. Desumi was shocked to see that Fudo got dizzy from riding the Ferris wheel. Fudo, too, was surprised by how dizzy he got, realizing that he was weak for getting sick, just from the Ferris wheel. Desumi moved to sit next to Fudo. They both realized they now knew each other's hidden sides, and it was a good thing for their relationship. They held hands again. Desumi asked if Fudo was feeling better now. Fudo felt strange. Although he felt uncomfortable riding the Ferris wheel earlier, now he didn't want to touch the ground again. From the top, they could see that the battle had already ended, so Fudo and Desumi decided to head back. Desumi said that it seemed like they had gone a bit overboard today, and Fudo admitted that the amusement park was scary. Meanwhile, Misaki had done a lot of shopping and was happy carrying home so many things. Haru noticed some photos displayed and was surprised to see a photo of Fudo riding a ride. Fudo's mom called Desumi's number, thinking it was Haruta. She told her that Fudo had bought a dinosaur keychain from the amusement park and joked that he was still like a child. Desumi could only sigh as she listened to Fudo's mom. She didn't even know who this Haruta was. That day, Desumi was invited to go home with her two friends after school. Desumi, a high school student in the city, kept her true identity a secret. Along the way, her friends asked how her club activities were going. Desumi explained that there was exam preparation that day. They invited her to go karaoke with them, but she declined, saying she had work to do. Her friends teased her, asking how she'd ever get a boyfriend if she was always so busy. Desumi just laughed it off. Curious, they asked if she was currently interested in anyone. Desumi replied that it was a secret. Suddenly, they spotted Fudo sitting with Haru at a cafe. Desumi was shocked to see the scene. Fudo and Haru looked very close. Her friends, knowing Haru was the new member of Gelato Pink, remarked how cute she looked. They even guessed that Fudo and Haru might be dating since they seemed like a perfect match. Unable to bear it, Desumi burst into tears and ran away. Meanwhile, Fudo asked Haru why she had asked to meet him, as it wasn't like her. Haru apologized, knowing how busy Fudo was. Fudo encouraged her to share what was on her mind. Nervously, Haru hesitated, unsure if her question was appropriate. She was curious about a photo taken at the amusement park. She asked if it really was Fudo in the picture, and if so, who the girl next to him was. Haru was visibly unsure whether it was right to ask such a personal question. Noticing her hesitation, Fudo smiled and said he understood what she was trying to ask. He reached into his bag and pulled out a muscle training guidebook and a protein shake, handing them to her. He confidently declared that these items would solve all her problems. Haru was bewildered. Fudo explained that since Haru had been part of the gelato team for 6 months, it was time for her to start drinking protein shakes because her physical training hadn't shown much improvement. He suggested she follow the workout guide for the next 6 months to build an unbeatable physique. Haru attempted to clarify that she was asking about the photo, not training, but Fudo interpreted her concern as worry about her physical fitness. He enthusiastically pointed out that the guidebook detailed everything with photos and that the exercises were designed to minimize strain. He assured her that even with her small frame, she wouldn't find it difficult, especially if she started with stretches to prevent injury. He also highlighted how the guidebook's charts would improve her muscle flexibility and speed up recovery time. Fudo concluded his long explanation by saying that achieving an ideal body takes effort and dedication. Haru, realizing Fudo's obliviousness to romance, became even more convinced that he didn't have a girlfriend and was solely focused on his muscle training. Fudo reassured her that hard work never betrays, implying this was the answer she had been seeking all along. Grateful for his advice, Haru thanked him and felt reassured. Suddenly, the gelato team received an emergency call. They quickly rushed to the scene. The Gakko monster Culverin Bear was wreaking havoc, destroying buildings with his Culverin cannon. He and the Gakko soldiers were preparing to level the city. However, the Gelato 5 arrived just in time to stop them. Culverin Bear, anticipating their arrival, rallied his troops, vowing revenge. The Reaper Princess, Desumi, led the charge against the heroes. Fudo braced himself for the attack. He jokingly asked Desumi what they would talk about today, but she immediately kicked him in the head, sending him flying. Fudo realized he had miscalculated the timing of her strike. As Desumi approached him, preparing to swing her flail, Fudo tried to signal that he would dodge and retreat. However, Desumi ignored his signal entirely. The flail struck Fudo, and he winced in pain. He suggested they move to another location, but Desumi refused and continued attacking him relentlessly. She then unleashed her Death Whirlwind technique, a move Fudo had never seen before. The powerful gust swept Fudo off his feet and hurled him into an abandoned building. As Desumi approached him, she suddenly felt nauseous. Fudo, concerned, mentioned that this was likely because she used an unfamiliar technique. He tried to help her, but she kept hitting him. Confused, Fudo asked what was wrong and urged her to explain why she was acting this way. While angrily punching him, Desumi revealed that she had seen him at the cafe with Haru. One of her punches landed squarely on Fudo's face, and he finally understood what she was upset about. He quickly told her it wasn't what she thought and that she was misunderstanding the situation. Blocking her attacks, Fudo explained that he had only been teaching Haru about muscle training. Although Desumi knew Fudo wasn't the type to cheat, she couldn't help feeling jealous seeing him with Haru. Desumi admitted her insecurity, saying that Fudo seemed more suited for a feminine girl like Haru than someone like her, whom she considered an outcast. Enraged, she kicked Fudo with all her strength. Fudo didn't deny her feelings but firmly stated that to him, Desumi was the most feminine girl in the world. Frustrated, Desumi retorted that she hadn't used to care about love. But now she felt weak and pathetic because being in love with Fudo had changed her. Letting out all her anger, she attacked him relentlessly. Eventually, she stopped, sighing that perhaps she just wasn't cut out for love. Fudo gently embraced her, admitting that while he might be clumsy, once he makes a decision, he sticks with it until the end. He vowed to love Desumi for the rest of his life and urged her to trust him. His sincerity melted Desumi's heart, and she agreed to believe in him. Meanwhile, Gelato 5 managed to defeat the Gecko monster Culverin Bear once again. Back in the abandoned building, Fudo and Desumi stayed behind talking. Fudo couldn't help but smile, discovering yet another side of Desumi, her surprisingly pessimistic streak. Desumi warned that she still hadn't forgiven him for going on a date after school. Fudo reassured her that it wasn't a date. Smiling, Desumi told him he could make it up to her by promising to take her on a real after-school date. Fudo eagerly agreed and they shook hands, resolving the misunderstanding. However, Haru witnessed the entire interaction, which meant she had discovered their secret relationship. Stepping forward, Haru asked if Fudo was finally done. The next day, Fudo was on his way to the meeting room, looking extremely nervous as he replayed the events of the previous day in his mind. After their conversation, Haru had walked back with him. She hadn't said anything on the way, which made Fudo uneasy. He tried convincing himself that maybe she hadn't realized anything. But when he asked how much of the conversation Haru had overheard, she admitted that she'd been listening since he commented on Desumi's nausea caused by using the unfamiliar technique. This meant Haru had heard everything from the very beginning. Fudo felt like he was in serious trouble. Negative thoughts flooded his mind as he imagined what might happen next. He pictured Professor Big Gelato being furious with him and his teammates losing trust in him, questioning how he would make amends. Fudo couldn't understand how things had spiraled out of control. Standing frozen in front of the meeting room door, he had no idea what to do. Suddenly, Haru appeared behind him, asking what he was doing. Startled, Fudo stammered as Haru reminded him that the meeting was about to start. Together, they entered the room, where Professor Big Gelato greeted them warmly. The professor even announced that there would be a special announcement that day. Haru mentioned that what she wanted to talk about was her and Fudo. Fudo was startled and nervous for a moment, but it turned out Haru was just informing everyone that she and Fudo would be taking their final exams for a week and would need to leave early. Misaki joked that she'd miss them both. Despite the announcement, Haru remained silent, not just in the training room, but also on the battlefield and at school. This piqued Fudo's curiosity as he wondered why Haru hadn't said anything at all. Eventually, he confided in Desumi about Haru's silence since the incident. Desumi, intrigued, tried to guess what Haru's behavior meant, but Fudo was equally clueless. Throughout the week, Haru acted completely normal at work and school, but Desumi suspected she was plotting something and was keeping an eye on them. Fudo tried to reassure Desumi not to worry too much, even stepping away to create some distance between them. Suddenly, Desumi jumped at the sound of rustling bushes behind her. To her relief, it was just a weasel. Frustrated with the tense atmosphere, Desumi threatened to take out her flail and silence Haru herself. Fudo quickly stopped her, reasoning that Haru might have her own reasons and urging Desumi to wait a little longer to see what would happen. Still, Desumi felt Haru's presence nearby. She decided to send Fudo away, instructing him to buy her a drink, a mocha vanilla with skim milk, extra ice cream, and almonds. The complicated order made Fudo write it down so he wouldn't forget. As he left to fetch her drink, Desumi grinned to herself. She had only sent him away so she could confront Haru alone. Just as Desumi suspected, Haru finally stepped out in front of her. Without hesitation, Desumi asked why Haru was still keeping her relationship with Fudo a secret. Haru took a deep breath, summoning her courage, and challenged Desumi to a fight. That was Haru's real intention, and she hoped Desumi would accept her challenge. Haru transformed into Gelato Pink, even addressing Desumi by her full name in school. Shocked, Desumi wondered how Haru had discovered her identity. Haru attacked without hesitation, but Desumi effortlessly blocked the strike. Haru didn't back down, using all her strength to fight Desumi. Despite her efforts, Desumi calmly deflected every punch and kick. Eventually, Haru ran out of energy and collapsed to the ground. Desumi observed that Haru's fighting technique was still underdeveloped, likely because she hadn't been part of Gelato 5 for very long. Desumi advised her to stop the fight, but Haru refused to give up and got back on her feet. She launched another attack, only for Desumi to knock her down with a single blow. When Haru regained consciousness, Desumi told her to stay still for a while. Haru admitted her defeat, praising Desumi for her incredible strength. Desumi, still puzzled, asked Haru about her true intentions. Haru confessed that she had joined Gelato 5 because she loved Fudo. Over time, she began to suspect that Fudo had a girlfriend. She never imagined that his girlfriend would turn out to be the enemy's commander, which explained why she resented Desumi so much. Haru then revealed that she actually knew Desumi from the past. She recounted how years ago she had been bullied by some thugs. Desumi had come to her rescue, beating up the bullies and encouraging Haru to grow up strong. Smiling at the memory, Haru expressed her gratitude. Desumi, surprised, realized that Haru was the same little girl she had helped back then. Haru, in turn, admitted that she had never expected Desumi to be the Princess of Death. She added that, at first, she thought she might be able to steal Fudo's affection if Desumi had grown weak from falling in love. But now, after their fight, she had to acknowledge that Desumi was still incredibly strong. Desumi asked Haru why she was going to such lengths when she could easily ruin her relationship with Fudo without doing any of this. Haru replied that when Fudo was with Desumi, he smiled in a way she had never seen before. She couldn't bring herself to take away the happiness that Fudo and Desumi shared. As Haru broke down in tears, Desumi suddenly hugged her and began crying as well. Surprised, Haru asked why Desumi was crying too. Desumi kept sobbing, which caused both of them to cry even louder together. At that moment, Fudo came running over to Desumi. He apologized for not being able to find the exact drink she had requested, but then he froze in shock at the sight of Haru lying in Desumi's lap. Concerned, he asked what was going on. Desumi calmly told him to be quiet because Haru had just fallen asleep. Still startled, Fudo couldn't help but think Desumi might have silenced Haru in her own way. Eventually, the three of them began walking home together. Throughout the walk, Haru kept smiling. She said she would support Fudo and Desumi's relationship, but as they parted ways, she leaned in and whispered to Desumi that if the opportunity ever presented itself, she wouldn't hesitate to steal Fudo away. Desumi was taken aback by Haru's comment. Before leaving, Haru cheerfully told them to get along and then walked off. That day, the executives of Gekko were holding their monthly meeting. Bosslar, as the highest leader, was about to announce the monthly report for the Princess series, the results of battles, negative energy collection, spirit enthusiasm, and so on. The team in first place overall was the Bear team. The Deaf Princess took first place with 4920 points, while the Animal Princess came in second with 550 points. The Deaf Princess was praised for being active in proposing plans, always participating in battles, and being a role model for evil. She had earned the highest score after beating up Red Gelato badly. Kyoko, the Steel Princess, also praised the Deaf Princess for her power, but the Animal Princess didn't seem happy with the rankings. Desumi was asked to comment as the number 1, and she simply said that she was happy. As a reward, Desumi received a Super Bosslar doll. The Animal Princess then stood up dissatisfied, saying that Desumi always got in her way. She can challenge Desumi to a duel. Desumi calmly told her to relax and even handed the Super Bosslar doll to the Animal Princess. However, the Animal Princess slammed the doll and stormed off. Meanwhile, in the Gekko cafeteria, the Gekko soldiers were enjoying their meal. As Desumi was getting her food, she overheard the Animal Princess talking about her. The Animal Princess was upset with Desumi and was confident she would beat her to take the top spot. Kyoko laughed and asked if it would really be that easy to take the first place. The Animal Princess, annoyed, told Kyoko, who was in last place, not to comment like that. Desumi understood that the Animal Princess saw her as an enemy, hated losing, and had a very volatile mood. Kyoko, the Steel Princess, was someone who did as she pleased, appeared competitive, and a bit strange. They made for a fun duo. Suddenly, Kyoko shared with the Animal Princess that she had a concern because she was in love with someone. The Animal Princess, uninterested, dismissed it as boring. Desumi, however, stepped closer and asked Kyoko to just tell her. Both of them were surprised when Desumi approached. Desumi said that falling in love was amazing. Kyoko asked if Desumi was interested in someone, and Desumi nodded. The Animal Princess then realized that Desumi was like that. Desumi became curious about the person Kyoko liked. Kyoko said the person she loved was wild but understanding. Desumi gave a cute expression after hearing Kyoko's answer, which made the Animal Princess shiver. Kyoko revealed that the person she liked was a co-worker, and the Animal Princess reminded her that workplace romances were not allowed and that Kyoko should just give up. Kyoko knew it wasn't allowed, but she couldn't stop herself. The Animal Princess pointed out that it already broke the rules. Desumi felt a flutter in her chest and said that she understood those feelings. The Animal Princess was shocked by Desumi's response. Desumi then said that sometimes it was okay to break the rules and that she would support Kyoko. The Animal Princess wondered why Desumi was so enthusiastic. Kyoko thanked Desumi, but the Animal Princess continued to warn that it couldn't happen. Desumi then asked what Kyoko's plan was after that, and the Animal Princess realized they hadn't been listening to her warning. Kyoko planned to confess her love to the person, and Desumi supported her. Unfortunately, Kyoko still had doubts because she thought her face was plain. She wasn't good at her work, and she didn't feel attractive as a woman. So even if she confessed, she felt like it was impossible for her love to be accepted. Desumi reassured Kyoko that she could confess her love by embracing her femininity and gaining the courage to express her feelings. The Animal Princess warned them, as evil forces, not to talk about femininity. Kyoko then asked if she could do that, and Desumi was very confident that she could, promising to support her. Kyoko decided to give it a try, and Desumi was happy, encouraging all three of them to keep pushing forward together. However, the Animal Princess didn't want to get involved. Desumi then invited both the Animal Princess and Kyoko to do a few activities to enhance their femininity. They started with Pilates, which is believed to improve both mental and physical beauty. Desumi asked the Animal Princess to stay focused, but the Steel Princess just lay down exhausted. The next activity was chopping fish, but that seemed too difficult. They then tried reading a book, but unfortunately, Kyoko ended up falling asleep. They moved on to painting their nails, but instead of painting her nails, Kyoko ended up painting her fingers. Next, they tried yoga on the pool mat, which is supposed to strengthen core muscles and give the body a beautiful shape. Unfortunately, Kyoko ended up sinking into the water. She realized that she wasn't really the kind of woman who could do anything and chose to give up. She thanked Tasumi and the animal princess for sticking by her. The animal princess then said that her confidence had completely vanished. At that moment, Gekko was battling against Gelato 5 with the Gekko monster, Chulverin Bear, and the Moonlight Warriors fighting against the Gelatos. Meanwhile, as usual, Tasumi and Fudo separated from the group to find a quiet place to talk. Tasumi shared that she was fighting for Kyoko, who, like her, lacked self-confidence. But Tasumi's actions were hurting Kyoko instead. It turned out that confessing love and being in a relationship wasn't as easy as she thought. Tasumi then asked Fudo what he expected from his girlfriend. Fudo replied that he didn't expect anything as long as Tasumi was by his side. He didn't need anything more. Tasumi didn't believe him. She was sure there had to be something he wanted, maybe for her to be a better cook. Fudo loudly said that he didn't expect anything because he loved Tasumi just as she was. His answer made Tasumi blush and she called him silly. She thanked him, saying that she felt happy. Fudo then asked if his answer helped, and Tasumi said it did, although she realized that she had forgotten something really important. Tasumi and the animal princess entered Kyoko's room, where they saw that Kyoko had locked herself inside and created an iron labyrinth. Once she did that, she wouldn't move and it became dangerous to approach her. Tasumi ended up breaking one of the metal bars, and the animal princess scolded her because that would trigger an automatic attack. Tasumi admitted she was wrong and told Kyoko that she didn't mean to change. It was okay to have weaknesses because Kyoko was enough just as she was. The metal bars continued to attack Tasumi automatically. She approached Kyoko, and just as the bars were about to stab her, the animal princess quickly destroyed them. Tasumi then removed Kyoko's mask and saw that she was crying. Tasumi suggested that Kyoko shouldn't give up on love. She knew that deep down Kyoko didn't want to give up and didn't want to deny her feelings of love. Kyoko admitted it and thanked her friends, saying that because of them she had gained the courage to go on. Kyoko realized that she couldn't do everything and she didn't have any special charm, but she could show herself for who she truly was and confess her feelings. Kyoko took off her metal suit, revealing her very large chest. The animal princess felt insecure because her chest was flat. She angrily said that she hoped Kyoko would be rejected by the man she loved. Kyoko immediately confessed her love to the Gekko monster, Chulverin Bear, and they ended up becoming a couple. Tasumi and the animal princess watched from a distance, with the animal princess surprised to find out that Kyoko's love was for the Gekko monster, Chulverin Bear. Tasumi was happy to see Kyoko's happiness. Catapult Snake was eating in the cafeteria when suddenly the Gekko monster, Chulverin Bear, came over and treated him to some food. Catapult Snake thanked him, but in return, Chulverin Bear asked if he could borrow Kyoko, the Steel Princess, for a while. Catapult Snake agreed, even jokingly asking if the Gekko monster was serious since Kyoko was quite clueless. Upon hearing that, Chulverin Bear got angry and demanded that Catapult Snake not insult Kyoko. The battle between Gekko and Gelato 5 began, but the Gekko monster brought Kyoko along to fight with him. They were both fired up for the fight, even calling it a love attack. The Gelatos were puzzled as to why Kyoko, who was from a different team, was fighting alongside them. Hayato, the blue Gelato, decided to call Fudo for backup. However, he was stopped by Haru, who told him that Fudo wasn't coming. Hayato insisted that Fudo was supposed to be there, but Haru remained firm, stating that Fudo wouldn't show up. If Hayato was still determined to go, he'd have to fight and defeat Haru first. Hayato was confused, but in the end he chose to return to the battlefield. Haru turned toward Fudo and Tasumi, hoping they would praise her. Fudo and Tasumi thanked Haru and she felt pleased before heading off to the battle. Tasumi asked Fudo if he was hungry and pulled out some food from her bag neatly arranged. Fudo thanked his mom for bringing him into a world where he could live in the same era as Tasumi. Tasumi thought Fudo was being too dramatic. Just as Fudo was about to take a bite of his food, Tasumi suddenly pulled the box away and said that according to relationship specialists, couples should eat together and feed each other. Fudo replied that he had heard the same thing before and wanted to make it happen. He thanked God for creating such a wonderful world. Tasumi hit him lightly, telling him not to be so extra. They both prepared to feed each other. Tasumi took a deep breath and offered the first bite to Fudo. Fudo immediately opened his mouth, ready to accept the bite from Tasumi. But suddenly, he complained about a sharp pain in his stomach. Tasumi didn't understand what was happening and Fudo was in so much pain. He pointed to his mouth and Tasumi thought he was asking her to feed him. but she refused, noticing how serious Fudo's condition was. Fudo then said that his last breath might be coming soon. Desumi began to cry and still wouldn't feed him, and in the end, Fudo lost consciousness. Desumi panicked and screamed for Haru. 3 days later, Fudo's condition improved at the hospital. Professor Big Gelato said that according to the doctors, Fudo could go home the next day. Misaki commented that the strong Fudo couldn't even beat appendicitis. Fudo apologized for causing so much trouble for his friends. Misaki, taking the initiative, peeled an apple and was about to feed Fudo a piece. Just as Fudo was about to accept the apple, he suddenly remembered that it had to be Desumi who fed him first. Fudo quickly shut his mouth. Misaki asked him to open up and eat the apple, but seeing Fudo refusing, Haru understood what was going on. She jumped toward Misaki and ate the apple that was meant for Fudo. Misaki was baffled by Haru's silly behavior. Haru smiled at Fudo and Professor Big Gelato reminded him to take care of himself. Their friends said their goodbyes and Fudo went back to sleep. Suddenly, a woman came in to feed Fudo a piece of apple. Fudo thought it was Desumi feeding him, but it turned out to be his mother. Upon hearing her voice, Fudo quickly turned his back on her. Fudo's mother brought him a change of clothes and he thanked her. Before leaving, his mother asked him to eat the apple and then said goodbye, mentioning that she had to go home because she had a volleyball event to attend with the other moms. Fudo became convinced that this was all happening because his mother had bad intentions. Just as Fudo was about to start weightlifting, Desumi suddenly stopped him from working out his muscles. She reminded him that his stitches might reopen. Desumi had heard that Fudo could go home the next day, so she came to visit because she wanted to see him in a situation that wasn't usual for him. Desumi asked if Fudo was feeling better since his face looked much fresher. Fudo joked that he couldn't die before Desumi fed him. Desumi laughed and patted his stomach, telling him not to be so dramatic. She pulled the curtains closed and sat beside him on his bed, then fed him a piece of apple. Desumi held up the apple slice and Fudo opened his mouth, ready to accept his first bite from her. The first bite went smoothly and Desumi asked how it felt to be fed by her. Fudo replied that the apple tasted much better than any food he had ever had. Just as they were about to get closer again, Fudo's mother appeared to tell him that his dad would pick him up tomorrow. Fudo was annoyed that his private moment with Desumi was interrupted by his mother. Fudo's mom then asked Desumi if she played volleyball as they were short on players for their game. She unexpectedly pulled Desumi along to join her, and Fudo's time with Desumi was completely ruined. Desumi joined Fudo's mom in the volleyball game. She received a pass from Fudo's mom and quickly made a smash, leading their team to victory. Fudo's mom thanked Desumi for helping and Desumi, enjoying herself, said she'd love to play again. Fudo's mom admitted that it had been wrong to interrupt Desumi feeding Fudo earlier. Desumi was caught off guard and became flustered. Fudo's mom reassured her, saying there was no need to feel embarrassed, as she herself was like that with Fudo's dad. She mentioned that she had once been very beautiful and showed a photo of herself with little Fudo when he was a toddler. Little Fudo was absolutely adorable, and Desumi couldn't help but compliment him on how cute he was. Before leaving, Fudo's mom gave Desumi some advice to take care of Fudo, and Desumi promised she would. The Gelato team was fighting against the Gakko forces, while their leader was having a romantic moment with the leader of the Gakko army. Fudo and Desumi were chatting on top of a cliff while the battle raged below them. The weather was hot as summer was just starting to kick in. Fudo planned to take Desumi somewhere special during the summer. Desumi was really excited and she started thinking about where they could go. There were so many options, like having a barbecue, going to a fireworks festival, hiking in the mountains, or even heading to the beach. Fudo was surprised when she mentioned the beach, as his mind immediately pictured bikinis. In the Gakko cafeteria, all the forces were enjoying their lunch, including Desumi and Majima Kiki. Kiki watched them from behind and commented that Desumi had an intense aura. She was curious about what food was in front of Desumi. After taking a look, she was disappointed to find that Desumi's meal was just a simple pasta set. Kiki had expected something more, especially since she thought only Desumi had the toughness to be recognized. She was curious how someone like Desumi ended up joining the Gakko Association. Desumi explained that her family had registered her. The animal princess remarked that it sounded like Desumi had signed up like an idol. Kiki then asked how Desumi had passed such a tough test. Desumi was also confused, saying she didn't know why she passed since she just did everything as usual, and even ended up being chosen as the leader. She had excelled in almost all the physical tests and had performed better than the others. Kiki thought that Desumi didn't really intend to join Gakko, which was why she seemed so relaxed about everything. Desumi then asked Kiki if the beach would be a good spot for their next attack. Suddenly, an announcement came calling all the team leaders and the princesses to the meeting room. It was unusual to have a call during lunch, so Kiki quickly stood up, but Desumi kept enjoying her pasta. Kiki had to drag Desumi to the meeting room. The Gakko Secret Association had a strict hierarchy. The leader of Gakko, Boslar, oversaw 6 teams, each led by the strongest monsters, with the princesses serving as their deputies. The lowest rank was the Moonlight Soldiers. Boslar gathered everyone for a meeting to announce the creation of a new team. He called Desumi to the front and congratulated her, telling her that she would be promoted from the rank of princess to monster and would undergo an operation to merge with an animal's body to gain new powers. Desumi was shocked at the idea of becoming a monster. Kiki was upset because Desumi got the promotion before her. Culver and Bear congratulated Desumi on her promotion, saying he had expected her to succeed. Catapult Snake also welcomed Desumi to the world of monsters. Maxalock Eagle commented that the body of a monster was definitely impressive. Kiki, although upset, said she would be fine with Desumi becoming a monster first. She would catch up soon. Drone Rabbit also congratulated her, and Desumi noticed how cute Drone Rabbit was. She thought maybe it wouldn't be so bad to become a cute monster like her. Boslar then revealed that Desumi would be merged with a mountain gorilla. Desumi was taken aback upon hearing this. Boslar explained that the combination of the 2 strongest primates would create a true miracle. It seemed like Desumi wasn't quite ready for this decision, but Boslar assured her the operation would take place the next day. The meeting was then adjourned. Desumi was thinking about how becoming a monster would completely change her life. She wouldn't be able to live like she did before, and she wouldn't be able to go on a date at the beach. Unfortunately, Desumi couldn't reject this decision. Her phone suddenly vibrated. Her father was calling via video. He asked how she was doing. Desumi's father had received a message from Boslar saying that Desumi had been promoted. He was so proud of his little girl. The whole family cheered and celebrated her achievement. Her father said that their family could now become a monster family, almost like a dream come true. He even cried tears of joy remembering his past as a retired combatant. He was beyond happy. Desumi's mother also encouraged her, sending her words of support. Desumi didn't even have time to say anything before her mother told her that Desumi's younger sister, Magahara Orami, was no longer feeling down after seeing the results of Desumi's hard work. Orami said that she wanted to join Gakko too after graduating from school. She also gave her a message, to never lose even after becoming a monster because Desumi was her idol. The entire family continued to encourage her and the video call ended. Desumi knew that her colleagues in Gakko and her family were happy for her, and if she rejected it, they would be disappointed. Desumi also wondered how Fudo would react when he heard the news about her promotion. Just then, her phone vibrated again and she was startled. It was Fudo calling. Desumi asked what was going on, her voice full of panic. Fudo said that he just wanted to hear Desumi's voice while thinking about her. Fudo then asked if something was bothering her because her tone was different than usual. Desumi went silent and Fudo thought he might have been wrong. Suddenly, he heard Desumi crying and immediately told her to wait for him for 1 hour before hanging up the call. After a while, Fudo sent a message saying that he had arrived. Desumi quickly looked out the window, and sure enough, Fudo was standing outside her dorm. Desumi explained her worries about being promoted to a monster and having her body merged with a gorilla. Fudo, instead of being serious, casually called it the cutest gorilla in the world. Desumi immediately hit him and said she was worried. Desumi asked him what she should do. Fudo replied that she shouldn't worry about his opinion and asked what she wanted to do. Desumi suddenly realized that she had never really thought about her own desires. Fudo told her that her kindness towards others was one of her greatest charms, but sometimes that kindness should be for herself. He asked again what she wanted to do. Desumi came to the realization that she was allowed to choose what she wanted. She thought about how, if she became a gorilla, things like manicures, cooking, or even crafts would be so difficult to do. It would be hard to meet with Fudo too. She also wanted to visit an amusement park again, to go on a date after school, and to enjoy the beach, things she couldn't do if she lost her original body. She didn't want to give up on any of that. Ever since meeting Fudo, Desumi realized that she wanted to experience everything. She used to be someone who would never betray the expectations of the people around her, but now she couldn't bear the thought of becoming a gorilla just to fulfill the hopes of her family and friends, because she wanted to keep leaning on Fudo's shoulder. The next day, Desumi expressed her wishes to Boslar. Boslar was surprised and asked why she didn't want to become a monster. Desumi told him that it was her decision, and she wouldn't regret it. Kiki even called her crazy for turning down such an opportunity, and Culver and Bear said it was a chance to gain new strength. Boslar asked if Desumi was sure about rejecting the generous offer from the great leader of Gakko. Desumi firmly declined the offer. At first, Boslar seemed angry and Desumi could only accept whatever would happen next. To her surprise, Boslar called her amazing, saying that a deaf princess had to be like that. Desumi was puzzled, but Boslar went on to explain that Desumi's fighting style, relying only on her physical body, showed the spirit of a martial arts expert. She wasn't someone weak who controlled the power of animals. Boss Lore's words were, of course, a jab at the monsters. He then asked everyone to give Desumi a round of applause and encourage everyone to follow her example. Desumi quickly informed Fudo that she had chosen not to become a monster. Fudo praised her for being able to reject the offer and follow her heart. Desumi smiled as she read Fudo's reply. Two of the Moonlight soldiers were discussing her, thinking that Desumi's operation had ended and mentioning that her current appearance was even scarier than before. Later that day, Desumi went to the beach, and the weather was sunny and beautiful. She met with Culver and Bear and Kyoko. Culver and Bear asked why Desumi had brought a set of beach gear, reminding her that even though they were at the beach, they shouldn't think of it as a vacation. Desumi had received information from Fudo that on Saturdays at Shonen Beach, Gelato would be testing the Gelato Robo. The King Gelato Robo was a combined robot made up of 12 parts designed to fight giant monsters. This gave Desumi and Fudo the chance for a date at the beach. It seemed like the heroes hadn't arrived yet, so they needed to prepare first. Gecko's mission at the time was to investigate and destroy the hero robot. Culver and Bear reminded them to act carefully and quietly. This was going to be a combined mission involving 3 teams: Desumi's team, Kyoko's, and Kiki's. Kiki, however, was hiding behind a rock, seemingly insecure about her swimsuit. Desumi told her that the outfit really suited her. Kyoko stood beside Kiki, and Kiki asked Kyoko not to stand next to her and to leave. Kyoko asked why, but Kiki didn't want to explain, probably feeling self-conscious about Kyoko's chest size. Suddenly, a submarine fired an explosion toward the beach. Culver and Bear quickly instructed everyone to retreat. Professor Big Gelato had accidentally fired the blast. Fudo checked the area to ensure that no one was injured by the explosion. Kiki was sure that the Gelato team was anticipating a sabotage mission from Gakko. The submarine was part of the King Gelato Robo. Misaki and Haru then emerged from inside the submarine. Misaki opened a can of beer and Haru immediately told her not to drink it. However, Misaki insisted, saying that beer was more enjoyable at the beach. Haru scolded her, reminding her they weren't at the beach for fun and games. Professor Big Gelato told Misaki not to worry about it and suggested she should just drink the cold beer. Haru became even more irritated. Professor Big Gelato explained that the test was only for the Gelato submarine, which was just the robot's legs, so it wasn't that important. Fudo walked near the place where Desumi and Kiki were hiding. Just as Kiki was asking about their next move, Desumi suddenly ran up to Fudo, surprising Kiki. Desumi approached Fudo and smiled at him. When Fudo saw Desumi wearing a bikini, he froze in place, unable to move. Desumi quickly tapped him and asked what was happening. It turned out Fudo had been mesmerized by Desumi's cuteness, so much so that he forgot to breathe. Hearing this, Desumi punched Fudo and told him not to stare at her like that because it made her feel embarrassed. They held hands and looked out at the ocean, with Fudo calling it a dream beach date. Desumi wanted to try a few things together. Kiki watched in awe, impressed by Desumi for carrying out the mission alone while she was still thinking about the risks. That was the difference between Kiki and Desumi. Kiki promised to achieve something as impressive as Desumi, and she planned to follow Desumi's lead in helping with the mission. But what Kiki didn't expect was what she saw next. Desumi was torturing Fudo by burying him in the sand, even though they were technically just playing in the sand together. She laughed at the sight of Fudo, unable to move. Kiki became convinced that Desumi really had no mercy. When Desumi said she wanted to try something else, Kiki got curious and went to see them again. What Kiki saw at that moment was Desumi standing behind Fudo, holding a stick and about to swing it at him. Naturally, Kiki thought Desumi was going to smash Fudo's head in. Suddenly, there was a loud cracking sound. But it turned out that Desumi was just smashing a watermelon. From behind the rock, Kiki thought Fudo's head had been crushed. Out of nowhere, Hayato appeared in front of Kiki and called her cute. He grabbed her hand and said this was destiny. Kiki recognized him as Hayato, the blue gelato. Hayato was happy that Kiki remembered him, and he pulled her along, saying they should enjoy this summer together. Kiki called him a scummy guy, just as the rumors said, and immediately slapped him, knocking him out cold. Kiki then returned to watch Desumi. Desumi was hanging out with the gelatos, enjoying some food, and Kiki was surprised that Desumi had managed to infiltrate the gelato team. Hayato soon woke up and grabbed Kiki's shoulder, urging her to be honest with herself. Kiki ran away to avoid him, but Hayato chased after her. Misaki asked if Desumi wasn't just a friend to Fudo, but his girlfriend. Fudo, Desumi, and Haru were all startled by the question. Desumi immediately denied it, and Misaki laughed at Desumi's cute reaction. Dahlia Ghost showed up with some cold noodles he had made, and they all enjoyed the noodles on the boat while watching the fireworks set off by Professor Big Gelato. The fireworks were beautiful, but not for the professor, who was surrounded by smoke. Misaki thanked Desumi for helping Fudo become a better, more expressive man. Desumi smiled at Misaki's words. Haru and Daigo came by with small fireworks, and they all lit them together. Desumi was happy because Fudo truly was an amazing guide to her, and ever since they started dating, every day had become so much more enjoyable. Professor Big Gelato hoped they liked the fireworks and said he'd shoot off a big one for the finale, but unfortunately, it didn't go as planned. Kiki felt relieved to have escaped from Hayato, who had been relentlessly chasing her. Desumi called out to Kiki with a smile, and Kiki couldn't understand why Desumi seemed so unaffected, as if nothing had happened, even though she had just tortured Fudo. Kiki was sure that Desumi couldn't destroy a robot, but suddenly, the submarine exploded and Kiki was shocked, thinking that Desumi was the one who had destroyed it. Desumi remarked that the last fireworks display was really something that Kiki called Desumi someone with no limits. For Desumi, today had been a really fun day. The Gelato team headed home on the train, all of them asleep in their seats except for Daigo. He was still awake, staring at a photo from the fireworks event. He couldn't stop looking at the picture of Desumi. Daigo was cooking food for Fudo, and Haru thanked Misaki for her hard work. Misaki asked why Daigo was still here. Daigo replied that Fudo had a night shift, so he was making food for him. The meal looked delicious. Daigo really was a great cook. Haru asked if Daigo was also busy with his duties to recruit new members. Daigo said he didn't mind the extra work. Misaki tried to flirt with Daigo by asking if he would choose her as his life partner, but Daigo, being indifferent, simply replied that workplace romance was forbidden. Misaki was annoyed by Daigo's response. Haru commented that Daigo was a very laid-back person. He was calm and gentle in battle and not reckless like Haru. Misaki even called Daigo the mental strength of the organization. Daigo then served the dinner he made to Fudo, and Fudo thanked him. Daigo said that Fudo worked hard, and Fudo mentioned that he was writing an exchange diary. Daigo asked if it was the diary about the girl from the beach, and Fudo admitted that he hadn't told Daigo about it yet. Fudo then mentioned Desumi's name. As soon as Daigo heard that, he collapsed and started trembling like he was scared. Fudo panicked and asked if Daigo was okay. Daigo muttered Desumi's full name and then passed out. Fudo rushed him to the student infirmary, and after Daigo regained consciousness, Fudo gave him some water, which Daigo drank. Fudo asked if Daigo knew Desumi, and Daigo confessed that he did. Fudo then realized that Daigo must be from Hakata, and he asked if Daigo had ever interacted with Desumi. Daigo explained that Desumi was a monster he had created, meaning he had known her since she was a child. Fudo asked Daigo to tell him everything he didn't know about Desumi. Daigo warned him that it was a scary story and suggested that Fudo might want to back out if he wasn't mentally prepared. Fudo didn't mind and said he was ready to accept whatever came. Daigo then began the story. It was a day when Fukuoka had truly become a den of demons, specifically 10 years ago when Daigo was in middle school. He was attending karate training at the Oda Karate Dojo, and Daigo was a naturally talented child at the famous dojo. He didn't have any rivals, neither kids his age nor older, and he was the strongest in the area. Then little Desumi came to the dojo. At that time, Desumi was only 7 years old. Fudo imagined how cute Desumi must have been when she was little. Desumi's first words were that no matter what game they played, she would destroy it. But that time, she promised she wouldn't destroy the place, and everyone laughed. Desumi did some stretching exercises, and the karate master told Daigo to keep an eye on her. Daigo approached Desumi and asked her to show off her skills. He asked her to punch him in the stomach, but to his surprise, Desumi's punch was incredibly strong, and it left Daigo in shock, replaying his life's memories in his mind. Daigo couldn't believe that the strongest person at the dojo had been defeated by a second-grade elementary school student. Desumi apologized and asked if her punch hurt. To maintain his pride, Daigo said that her punch was good, but didn't affect him. Desumi smiled, happy that it was her first time landing such a punch. She asked if she could hit him again. Daigo, still trembling from the impact, suggested that they do it another day. After the training, Desumi said goodbye to Daigo. Hearing this story, Fudo said that Desumi was indeed a genius. Daigo admitted that back then, he didn't fully believe it. He thought it was just a coincidence, but the next day, the karate master closed the dojo because he had tried to train a second-grade elementary student only to end up beaten up. He felt like a failure as a trainer and decided to retreat to the mountains. Daigo found Desumi looking gloomy. She says she always felt like this. Every place that made her happy eventually disappeared. Desumi even started crying, and Daigo gently patted her head, telling her not to worry because he would train her. He asked her to stop crying. Desumi was touched by Daigo's kindness, and from that moment on, Daigo became her karate teacher. What Daigo didn't know at the time was that this was the moment he had opened Pandora's box. Desumi's power was so immense that it almost killed him. Daigo admitted that Desumi was getting stronger, but in order to maintain his dignity as a teacher, Daigo claimed that Desumi still had a long way to go before catching up to him. However, this only made Desumi even more excited. To avoid being killed by Desumi, Daigo trained his body intensely. Fudo concluded that Daigo became strong because of Desumi. One day, Desumi was approached by a group of delinquents. They didn't expect her to be just a middle schooler, and they thought that defeating her would make them famous. They quickly surrounded her, but Desumi calmly told them that she needed to prepare food for her younger siblings, so she asked them to get out of her way. The delinquents mocked her, saying her siblings wouldn't get to eat, and proceeded to attack Desumi. But Desumi easily fought them off, leaving them helpless. She was known as the God of Death in a way of Fukodori. Fudo thought that was a pretty cool nickname, and he wrote it down in his diary. It was winter during their high school years when Daigo's parents got divorced, and he had to move to Tokyo. Daigo needed to settle things with Desumi. He invited her for one last training session and asked her to give it her all because he had been training hard for that day. Desumi was a monster that Daigo had created, and it was only right that he be the one to finish her off. They fought for 2 minutes, and it ended with Daigo lying on the ground, exhausted. Desumi still thought Daigo was holding back, but he had told her to go all out. To save face, Daigo said that no teacher would seriously hit their student, and deep down he realized how foolish he had been. After the fight, Daigo said his goodbyes to Desumi. Desumi was sad and asked if they could meet again, and if they did, would they train like that again? Daigo promised he would be serious the next time they met. Daigo remained silent, but in his heart he couldn't bear to go through that again. He was shocked that Desumi, who hadn't even been serious, had beaten him. It was truly terrifying. Daigo then left for Tokyo like someone running away. There he was invited to become a hero. He unconsciously sealed away those terrifying memories. He admitted to himself that he was pathetic, but he never expected that Desumi's story would follow him to Tokyo. Fudo, of course, knew the answer. Desumi was an executive at Gakko. Daigo mentioned that during the barbecue the other day, Desumi didn't recognize him. He thought it was just a matter of time before she did. Daigo was curious if the God of Death power was still there. He knew he had to prepare himself. Daigo then asked Fudo if he knew that workplace romance was forbidden. Daigo suggested that Fudo should cut ties with Desumi because he was planning to recruit Desumi to join their team. Just saying her name gave him chills, but this was for world peace, and as someone tasked with finding new heroes, Daigo couldn't ignore Desumi's power. Fudo suddenly imagined how cute Desumi would be as gelato. Daigo then proposed that they investigate Desumi first. It could turn into a huge problem. Daigo, Fudo, and Desumi met at a restaurant. Fudo formally introduced Desumi to Daigo. Desumi greeted Daigo and asked how he was doing. Daigo mentioned that Desumi hadn't changed much. His hands started shaking unexpectedly, a result of his phobia of Desumi. Desumi was surprised to find out that Daigo was a member of Gelato 5. She hadn't recognized him at the barbecue the day before. Desumi began to miss the good old times when they trained together, but for Daigo, those were dark memories. Desumi suggested that they train together again like they used to, saying she had gotten a bit stronger since then. Daigo nearly felt sick at the thought. Seeing this, Fudo told Desumi that Daigo was a bit busy, so she shouldn't push him too hard. Daigo was touched by Fudo's help in protecting him. Desumi apologized for getting carried away, but then Fudo asked Daigo if it would be impossible to train with her. Daigo was taken aback by Fudo's response, which actually made him more afraid. Desumi quickly grabbed a drink. Fudo then asked if Daigo was okay. Daigo admitted that trauma wasn't something easy to get over. He then asked if Fudo and Desumi were really dating, and jokingly asked if Desumi had threatened Fudo, saying she would kill him if he didn't date her. Fudo got angry at the question and confirmed that he was serious. He truly loved Desumi. Hearing this, Desumi blushed and handed Fudo a matcha cake. Fudo fed Desumi a bite of the cake. As Desumi opened her mouth to take a bite, she suddenly realized that it was too soon for them, since it was almost like an indirect kiss. Fudo teased her for being shy. Daigo then asked to get straight to the point. Desumi asked what the purpose of Daigo's meeting with her was. Daigo explained that he wanted to invite Desumi to join the Gelato team because her strength should be used for justice. Desumi imagined that if she joined Gelato, she could always be with Fudo, and they could date in public. Daigo asked again about her decision. Desumi thought about her friends and family and apologized to Daigo. She appreciated the offer but couldn't accept it. Daigo asked her why and even offered paid leave at Gelato. Desumi said she was already happy enough, and if she asked for more, she might face karma. She accidentally let it slip that she was busy working at Gakko, but luckily, Fudo quickly covered her mouth with his hand and said that what Desumi meant was that she was busy with school. Desumi quickly realized that she couldn't let Daigo know she worked at Gakko. She apologized to Fudo for being careless. Fudo commented that Desumi's lips were very soft, making Desumi blush and hit him. Daigo felt like he was being forced to watch the sweetness between the couple in front of him. Daigo wondered if this was the same Desumi known as the god of death in Fukodore, the one people feared. Back then, she was always alone, bored, and isolated because of her dominance. Now, Daigo felt like Desumi didn't have that same invincible aura as before. She seemed to have fallen in love and weakened, while Daigo continued to train to fight evil. Daigo was confident that he could still defeat Desumi. He believed defeating her would help him heal from his trauma. Daigo then suggested they go outside and fight if that was what she wanted. Fudo asked why Daigo needed to fight Desumi. Daigo offered a deal. If Desumi won, he would drop the offer to join Gelato. Desumi said that wasn't fair because there was no way she could win against Daigo. Daigo responded that if he won, Desumi would have to break up with Fudo and join Gelato. Desumi asked why she had to break up with Fudo, and Daigo explained that Gelato had a no-romance rule in the workplace. Desumi said that if there was such a rule, Daigo should have told her from the beginning. She released an intimidating aura that made Daigo shiver. Desumi was determined not to lose in this fight. Without realizing it, Daigo transformed into Green Gelato, ready to attack Desumi. However, the result was still the same as before. He was defeated by Desumi once again. Fudo approached Daigo to make sure he was okay. Desumi still believed that Daigo was holding back his strength, just like before. Daigo was confused as he had changed, but Desumi still thought the same way. Fudo admitted that he wanted to stop Desumi earlier, but he ended up being mesmerized by her graceful movements while fighting Daigo. Daigo called Fudo too honest and stiff, wondering what kind of couple they were. It was honestly a little scary. Daigo stood up and said that this was a reunion with his student after such a long time, and he wanted to give his student a victory. Daigo repeated that he said this for his pride and authority in front of Desumi. He then told her that for that day he had accepted his defeat, and he asked Desumi to promise him one thing. There were many people who would want Desumi's strength, so Daigo asked her not to join Gakko. Fudo and Desumi could only remain silent. As they walked together, Desumi acknowledged that this was a big problem because the entire Gelato team considered them a couple. Fudo explained that it was Misaki who spread that rumor. Desumi felt that lately they had become careless and they needed to be more cautious. They couldn't be too close. Fudo agreed with what Desumi said. Desumi smiled and asked if Fudo felt a little disappointed for a moment. Fudo was serious and Desumi immediately embraced him, telling him that if she hugged him, he shouldn't hesitate to let her go. They walked together, laughing, and Fudo didn't even let go of Desumi's embrace. Suddenly, someone took a photo of them from a distance. That morning, Fudo arrived at the Gelato headquarters, where Misaki and Haru greeted him. Misaki handed him a package. Fudo immediately opened it and found a photo of him and Desumi holding hands. Fudo couldn't help but shout in surprise, which made Misaki and Haru ask him what was going on. Fudo didn't want to tell them he and Desumi were in big trouble. Later that day at school, Desumi was enjoying a homemade lunch. Her two friends praised her for making such a great meal. Just as she was about to take a bite, Huju Anna suddenly swooped in and ate it all. Desumi was shocked by Anna's behavior. Anna, however, claimed that her mouth just slipped and she accidentally ate Desumi's food. Desumi's friends asked if she was okay, and Desumi casually replied that this kind of thing happened to her all the time. Anna had a smug look on her face, making Desumi's friends feel scared. At that moment, Kiki and Kyoko appeared to stand up for Desumi. Kiki was furious, saying that Anna often bothered Desumi and deserved to be taught a lesson. Desumi's friends were impressed by Kiki and Kyoko's entrance. All the Gekko girls went to the same school by Boss Laura's order. Kiki was upset that Desumi didn't fight back when someone bothered her. She wanted Desumi to retaliate once in a while, but Desumi didn't mind because it was just about onigiri. Kyoko even joined in and ate the onigiri. Kiki threatened Anna, who was wearing a short skirt, nail art, earrings, and other accessories, that she should go to the guidance counselor's office because she had broken the rules. Anna got angry and retorted that Kiki wasn't popular. She added that besides onigiri, she always got whatever she wanted. Right now, the one thing she wanted most was a secret, and she wasn't going to tell Desumi. Kiki called Anna ridiculous for playing the secret game. Desumi, however, responded that everyone must have one or two secrets in life. Kiki was surprised by Desumi's response, saying that this was probably why Anna always targeted Desumi. Meanwhile, the photo package Fudo received contained a note saying that if he didn't want the photo to be spread, he had to meet the sender at the park at 8 p.m. Fudo went to the park and was suddenly called by Anna. He walked over to her, and Anna seemed amused that Fudo had actually come to meet her. Fudo asked if Anna was the one who had sent the photo. Anna admitted that she was the one who had taken it, and mentioned Fudo as the red gelato. Fudo asked what Anna's goal was in doing this to him and who she actually was. Anna said she couldn't tell him. She also mentioned that she could spread the photo anytime and Fudo was in trouble, so Anna wanted Fudo to follow all her demands. Whether the photo was spread or not depended on how Fudo behaved. Fudo kneeled and pleaded with her, saying that if the photo was spread, Anna should censor Desumi's eyes. Anna was surprised that this was the issue. She was also confused as it seemed Fudo didn't care if the photo spread. Fudo wasn't concerned about his own reputation, but he didn't want to trouble Desumi. If her face were to be exposed, Desumi would go viral on social media as an angel on Earth, and agents would fight to recruit her for offers as an idol, model, or actress. This would make Desumi unreachable for Fudo, and that terrified him. Anna felt disgusted hearing Fudo's response. For her, it was clear that Fudo didn't want the photo spread, so he had no choice but to obey her. Anna then demanded that Fudo quickly break up with Desumi. Fudo firmly refused. Anna shouted that Fudo didn't have the right to refuse her request and should understand the situation. However, Fudo still wouldn't back down, asking if there were any alternative choices. Anna agreed and secretly recorded their conversation. She asked Fudo to tell her that he loved her. Fudo firmly rejected her, and Anna slapped him, saying that his response hurt her. Anna then planned to call a tabloid. Fudo asked her what her real goal was, whether she was trying to separate him from Desumi. This was her last chance, Anna said, and she got ready to take a picture. She wanted Fudo to kiss her hand, and she would capture that embarrassing moment to emphasize the master and servant relationship between them. Fudo asked if Anna had called him just for this. Anna told him to just do what she asked. Fudo stayed silent while Anna waited for him to comply. Frustrated, Anna slapped Fudo again because he didn't listen to her. She yelled that Fudo was disgraceful and that today was enough. She would think of something worse for tomorrow. She warned Fudo to be ready for it and even threatened to spread the photo if he tried to run away. Meanwhile, Gelato 5 was battling Gakko's soldiers, and as usual, Fudo and Desumi took the chance to talk in an empty building. Fudo shared everything about the photo threat they had received. Desumi asked who the sender was, and Fudo said that the sender didn't leave their name, but they had met the previous night. Desumi got upset and said they needed to silence the person right away. Fudo tried to calm her down. Desumi asked what the sender had asked Fudo to do. Fudo told her that the sender wanted him to kiss her hand. When Desumi heard this, she immediately threw Fudo to the ground, but Fudo quickly assured her that he hadn't done it. Desumi apologized and asked if he was okay. Fudo said he was fine, and Desumi then asked if there were any other demands. Fudo explained that the sender also wanted him to confess his love and break up with Desumi. Desumi was shocked by this. Fudo didn't understand what the sender was thinking. Desumi was convinced that the sender had fallen in love with Fudo. Fudo didn't believe it. Desumi went quiet and looked down, but Fudo reassured her and told her not to worry. He felt sorry for the sender, but he knew he had to explain things to them. The next night, Fudo went to the park, and Anna was surprised that he had actually shown up. Fudo suddenly apologized to Anna, saying that he had thought things over and realized her feelings. He thanked her for liking him, admitted that his actions the other day were embarrassing, and told her that he couldn't return her feelings. Anna was confused and told him to stop talking, but Fudo ignored her. Anna slapped him in frustration, not understanding what he was saying. Fudo then asked if Anna was in love with him. Anna denied it, saying she was in love with Desumi. She suddenly realized that she had let it slip. She explained that when all the students used to avoid her, calling her tacky, angry, scary, and quick to lash out, Desumi had been different. Their friendship had started when Desumi complimented Anna's nail art, saying that she wanted to try it but never managed to. Desumi had smiled at her and introduced herself. From that moment, Anna had fallen for Desumi's innocent charm. Anna was surprised that Fudo didn't react to her story about Desumi. Anna apologized, saying that the girl didn't seem pure and was likely in love with Desumi. Fudo told her that there was no need to apologize as Anna was very good at judging people. He felt touched that someone understood Desumi's charm. Fudo even asked if Anna wanted to talk about Desumi's charm all night. Anna laughed and called Fudo strange. She said that while it might be fun to talk about Desumi's charm, she didn't think she could. Anna admitted that she actually saw Fudo as a rival. Anna then apologized again for causing trouble for Fudo and said she would continue to do so. She confessed that she was selfish and had a bad attitude. and that she had a hard time giving up on things. Ana also revealed that she and Desumi had a secret relationship, a little secret that even Desumi didn't know about. She said that if Fudo didn't act quickly, she would seal Desumi from him. With that, Ana left, leaving Fudo confused about the secret she was referring to. The next day, at Gekko's headquarters, there was a meeting early in the morning. Kiki was annoyed because the meeting was too early, and Kyoko said that waking up early meant that fortune wouldn't be missed. But Kiki snapped back, saying that Kyoko shouldn't act wise since it was actually Kiki who woke her up this morning. They ran into Princess Hot and Kiki greeted her, but Princess Hot didn't respond. Kiki was upset by how unfriendly Princess Hot still was. Desumi asked Kiki not to act that way. Kiki said that no one knew Princess Hot's voice or face. Desumi said it didn't matter because everyone had 1 or 2 secrets. Kiki then asked if Desumi had been hiding something all this time. Desumi got nervous and quickly said there was no secret. It turned out that Ana's little secret, which even Desumi didn't know, was that she was Princess Hot. Ana was thrilled by Desumi's cuteness. Meanwhile, Fudo and Desumi were in a cave feeling nervous while waiting for the results. Fudo told Desumi to stay confident. The results of their compatibility test appeared, and their love compatibility was 98%. Desumi was happy, but Fudo was upset because the result wasn't 100%. Just then, Haru appeared and asked if Gekko had any plans for an attack tomorrow. Desumi told Haru not to record her. She explained that Boss Lore would be absent until tomorrow, so there wouldn't be any attacks until then. Haru was relieved and then asked Fudo if he could help her study tomorrow, since the exams were coming up and she wasn't ready. Fudo agreed, and Desumi asked if Fudo was good at studying. Haru said that despite how Fudo looked, he always ranked in the top 10 in school. Desumi felt proud, while Fudo was confused about what she meant by how he looked. Fudo agreed to study together tomorrow, and Haru was happy and asked for his guidance. Noticing that Desumi seemed nervous, Haru asked if she wasn't good at studying. Desumi admitted that she wasn't, so Haru invited her to study together. Haru knew that this meant the study session wouldn't be at the headquarters, so Desumi suggested they study at her place instead. Desumi took them to the Gekko women's dormitory, and Haru thought the place seemed too dangerous. She panicked and was about to ask Fudo for help, but Fudo was actually really looking forward to going to Desumi's room. Desumi reassured Haru that they would be safe if they wore Gekko uniforms. Desumi and Fudo quickly changed into their Gekko uniforms. Desumi laughed when she saw that Fudo had put his mask on backward. They managed to get past the guards, took the elevator with monsters, greeted fellow Moonlight soldiers, and finally arrived at Desumi's room. Haru commented that Gekko's security was really weak. Once inside Desumi's room, Haru actually liked how cute it was. Fudo said that he had finally arrived in the sacred land he had always seen in video calls. In the room, Fudo could feel Desumi's scent, and at that moment, he no longer cared about studying. Hearing this, Halkao immediately started attacking him. Fudo apologized to Desumi for losing control. They then began their study session. As they were opening the books, Desumi's test paper suddenly fell to the floor. When it was opened, all of the scores were 100. Haru said that Desumi turned out to be really smart. Fudo then asked why Desumi wanted to study if she was already so good at it. Haru knew that Desumi just wanted to study together, and Desumi admitted it. Haru felt sad because she was the only one who wasn't smart. Fudo, however, said that rules were rules, so he still had to punish Desumi. He get Desumi because she had lied. Desumi also apologized to Haru for lying to her, admitting that she was actually good at studying. In the end, it was Desumi and Fudo who ended up teaching Haru. When Haru tried to solve the problem, Fudo said that the method she was using was wrong. He quickly showed her the correct approach, telling her to think of X as the bicep muscle and Y as the forearm flexor. For the next problem, X would be considered the deltoid muscle, and Haru needed to remember its connection with the pectoralis major. If Haru got confused, Fudo suggested that she draw the muscle anatomy. Haru seemed a bit lost, but still followed Fudo's instructions. Fudo told her that mathematics and muscles had an inseparable connection. Haru then asked Desumi for help. Desumi stopped Fudo and took over the task of teaching Haru. Desumi told Haru not to overthink it because math only needed enthusiasm and she could simply fill in the formulas. Not so different from Fudo, it turned out Desumi also taught by connecting math with muscles. Haru realized she had probably picked the wrong teachers. She asked if she could go home since she still didn't understand, but Desumi and Fudo thought she had already grasped what they were explaining. Fudo even said that their teaching method was great. Haru said that she was envious of Fudo and Desumi because they could freely choose any university, while she had to work hard to get into the one she wanted. Fudo offered his help if Haru faced difficulties, and Haru thanked him before leaving. With just the two of them in Desumi's room, Fudo and Desumi felt nervous. Fudo then asked why Desumi looked so serious. Desumi apologized, saying she was thinking about what Haru had said. Desumi then asked if Fudo planned to go to university after graduating. Fudo said he wanted to study education and become an elementary school teacher to teach kids. He wanted to be both a hero and a teacher. Fudo then asked Desumi about her dream. Desumi simply said that she wanted to go to the same university as him. She wanted to be by his side and see her dreams come true. That was the new goal she had set for herself, and Fudo was deeply moved hearing this. Desumi knew that her father would strongly oppose this because after she graduated from high school, her father wanted her to focus on Gakko. Fudo assured her that he would convince her father when the time came. Desumi hoped they could go to university together, and Fudo was sure that dream could come true. If he could be a hero, then no goal was impossible to reach. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Desumi was sure it was Haru, maybe she had forgotten something. But when they checked, it turned out it was Desumi's father who had come to visit her. He was accompanied by Orami and was carrying a box of Japanese sweet. Desumi and Fudo panicked at the unexpected arrival of Desumi's father. That day, Desumi's father and Orami visited Desumi in the dorm. Desumi hadn't seen her younger sister in a long time. When Desumi's father saw Fudo dressed as a Gakko soldier, he exclaimed, "Ki," a special greeting for Gakko members. Fudo was initially confused and just stayed silent. It wasn't until Desumi's father gave him a sharp look that Fudo realized he was supposed to respond with the same "Ki" greeting. Upon hearing this, Desumi laughed at Fudo's reaction and told her younger sister that Fudo was an acquaintance of hers. Desumi's father asked for Fudo's name, but Fudo replied that his name was Mudo. Desumi's father then asked why a regular soldier like him would be in Desumi's room, especially when she was a serious princess. Fudo, unsure of how to respond, looked at Desumi. Seeing his confusion, Desumi quickly said that Fudo was helping her study since she had an upcoming school exam. Desumi's father grew upset, questioning why a Gakko soldier would be studying when all a soldier needed was an eagle heart and a desire to dominate the world. He also commented on the state of Desumi's room, which he thought was messy. He took out a Gakko banner and immediately hung it on the wall. Desumi asked him to stop because it was ruining the atmosphere of her room. Her father was surprised at her reaction, and as he turned around, he tripped over something. Legendary Bosslar dolls that had been left on the floor. Desumi's father had always longed for these dolls. He couldn't understand why they were just lying around on the floor. Desumi explained that there was no space to display them. Desumi's father immediately knelt down and apologized to the dolls. He also knew that Desumi had refused the promotion to become a monster. He had once been just a low-ranking soldier, but he had been proud when he heard his daughter was advancing quickly through the ranks. To his disappointment, Desumi rejected it and called her foolish. Fudo apologized for interrupting the conversation between Desumi and her father. He said that Desumi had made her decision after careful consideration and asked Desumi's father not to blame her. Suddenly, Orami came in and slapped Fudo across the face. Her slap was so hard that Fudo fell to the ground and his gecko helmet got damaged. Desumi was shocked and Orami asked if Fudo knew anything about her older sister. Orami warned him not to interfere with her sister's matters. Desumi asked if Fudo was okay. Fudo, still on the floor, called Orami amazing, remarking on her potential. Desumi respected Fudo's opinion but asked him not to comment too much about Orami, as she had a serious sister complex. Fudo accidentally pressed a button on the remote, turning on the TV. At that moment, an advertisement for a new energy drink called Power One starring Red Gelato came on. Red Gelato even claimed that the drink could erase tiredness and Gakko. Hearing this, Desumi's father became annoyed and mocked it, saying that the daughter of death would surely tear Red Gelato's stomach apart. Desumi made a scary face at Fudo to tease him, and Fudo commented that her joke was cute. Desumi laughed at Fudo's reaction. Desumi's father said that they needed to eliminate Gelato 5 immediately. He then forbade Desumi from studying and told her to focus on practicing for battles, as she would graduate from high school in a year and could then fully dedicate herself to the Geiko Association. Desumi agreed to her father's request. Fudo then remembered Desumi's hope of attending university with him. He turned to Desumi's father and made a request, saying that Desumi wanted to go to college and asked him to allow it. Desumi's father remained silent. Suddenly, Orami stepped forward and said that the older sister she knew wasn't as relaxed as this. Her sister was much stronger and more ruthless than anyone else. She suspected that Fudo had ruined her sister and demanded that he return her sister to her original invincible self. Orami almost punched Fudo, but Desumi quickly stopped her. Orami told Desumi to let go of her hand. Desumi then made a scary face and Orami burst into tears, calling Desumi stupid before retreating into the closet. Fudo continued pleading with Desumi's father to allow Desumi to attend university. Desumi's father said that this was a family matter and asked Fudo to be quiet. Fudo responded that he would not be quiet. Desumi's father then changed his costume and said he had to teach Fudo the ways of Gakko. He challenged Fudo to a fight. Desumi's father ran at Fudo to attack, but suddenly he was thrown back and tumbled to the ground. Fudo asked if he was okay. Desumi's father asked if Fudo understood what losing with style meant, how to lose spectacularly. When Desumi's father was active as a Gakko soldier, he had trained that skill over and over. He told Fudo that he wouldn't understand the pride that came with it. Fudo said that he understood. Hearing this, Desumi's father was moved. Fudo helped him up, and Desumi's father explained that some people mock that skill, but he believed it was worth fighting for. Desumi's father then felt a strong determination from Fudo, calling him a young man with great potential. Desumi was surprised by her father's attitude toward Fudo. Desumi's father said he was going to the bathroom and that they could discuss the university matter another time. Hearing this, Desumi smiled. He said goodbye and reminded Desumi to look after Orami the next day. Desumi apologized to Fudo for all the trouble he had to go through that day, but Fudo brushed it off, saying it wasn't a big deal. Desumi called Fudo cool and thanked him for everything. Fudo smiled and said his goodbyes. Orami watched them from the window, puzzled by Desumi's expression. She felt sad, not wanting to see her older sister looking like that. Orami decided she would never accept Fudo. 5 years ago, after school, Orami was harassed by a group of boys. They called her a loner and teased her, daring her to fight back. However, they said it was impossible for Orami to do anything since all she could do is mutter. Suddenly, Desumi appeared and scared the boys away. She bought ice cream for Orami to stop her from crying. Desumi told Orami to become strong as she would need strength to survive. From that moment on, Orami admired her older sister. Desumi and Orami took the bus to the Gakko headquarters. Orami watched as Desumi smiled and replied to messages on her phone. Fudo praised Desumi's room, calling it amazing. After getting off the bus, Orami quickened her pace. Desumi asked her why she looked upset ever since that morning. Orami denied being upset. Desumi then asked if Orami was sure she wanted to go to the Gakko headquarters. Orami expressed her desire to see her sister's workplace next year. After walking for a while, they finally reached the Gakko headquarters gate. The Moonlight Warriors greeted Desumi's arrival, honoring her with a salute. Orami was completely amazed by everything she saw. She admired her older sister. Even though Desumi seemed soft and relaxed outside, here in this place, Desumi's aura was threatening. Desumi reminded her subordinates not to go overboard with their greetings, saying that just a simple hello would suffice. She then asked them if she looked any different. One of her subordinates responded that she looked more intimidating than usual. Desumi got irritated, realizing that her subordinates hadn't noticed her new hairstyle. Orami asked if her sister always acted this way in front of her subordinates, and Desumi admitted she did. Orami called her pathetic for it, and Desumi was surprised by how annoyed her sister seemed. Desumi then invited her younger sister to meet the executives of Gakko. Bossler greeted Orami, who was shaking with nervousness. She told him that she planned to join Gakko after graduating from middle school next year. Bossler commented that Desumi had high standards and suggested that Orami try to surpass them. Orami said she was determined to work hard. Kiki remarked that since Orami was related to Desumi, she was sure Orami had talent. Kyoko added that Gekko's strength would definitely increase drastically. Orami was in awe of her older sister because even the Gakko elites respected her. Suddenly, Desumi offered to buy Orami some popcorn and invited her to a new shop in Harajuku. Desumi wanted to try it out first before buying it with Fudo, adding that she didn't want to stay in that stuffy place any longer. Her words made some of the Gakko executives slightly offended, and Orami apologized for her sister's behavior. Desumi and Orami then went for a walk around the city. Desumi offered Orami some popcorn, but Orami didn't take it. Desumi bought a headband for Orami and made her wear it, even complimenting how it looked on her. Desumi continued shopping, buying Orami a headband, clothes, a drink bottle, and more. She even mentioned that Fudo had a similar drink bottle. Desumi was happily shopping, but Orami started to feel bored. Desumi offered to buy Orami some crepes, but Orami insisted that they go home instead. Desumi asked what was wrong, and Orami replied that the older sister she had admired was gone. She said that the Desumi she once looked up to now seemed weak. Orami continued walking without paying attention to Desumi, who kept calling after her. Orami walked off alone, remembering the time when she was teased by a group of boys. They called her a loner and gloomy, even purposely bumping into her as she walked by. Orami stayed silent, unable to fight back. They mocked her for not being able to complain when her sister wasn't around. After Desumi went to the dorm, Orami stayed in her room for a whole week. Her parents thought she was sad because Desumi had gone to Tokyo. As Desumi started appearing on TV, fighting Gelato 5, the whole family proudly watched her and cheered for her, but Orami stayed locked in her room. After each battle, Desumi's father would tell Orumi the results, and even though Gakko lost, he always praised Desumi for fighting until the very end. Desumi's father would always tell Orumi stories about her sister, how she fought hard every day, got stronger, and eventually became number one. Desumi was promoted to monster status, and the family always took pride in her. One day, Orumi left her room and said that she wanted to be like her older sister. For a long time, Orumi had seen Desumi as the pillar of her life, but now the older sister she had always admired had changed. Since Desumi went to Tokyo and met Fudo, she had changed and become pathetic. Orumi cried as she remembered that. Suddenly, 3 thugs approached Orumi, who was crying, and asked if she was upset because her boyfriend had dumped her. They suggested she hang out with them and forget what was making her cry. One of the thugs thought Orumi was too young, but another one said that Orumi was actually cute. One of them tried to grab Orumi's hand, but Orumi told him to let go. However, her voice was so soft that they mistook it for her mumbling. They called her a gloomy, antisocial kid who couldn't have a conversation. Their words reminded Orumi of the time when her classmates used to tease her. Just then, Desumi showed up, and the 3 thugs were curious about who she really was. Desumi told Orumi to stop crying and offered her some crepes. Orumi replied that this wasn't the time to be eating, but Desumi tried to calm her down. Desumi wanted to prove that she had become weak like Orumi thought. She said she had always been the strongest in her life. The thugs reminded her that they were criminals, but Desumi began to show them who she truly was. She was a real villain. Desumi easily defeated all 3 of them. After that, they sat down and ate crepes together. Desumi suggested that Orumi should fall in love, saying that Orumi needed love to survive. Orumi replied that this was very different from what Desumi had told her before. Desumi smiled and patted Orumi's head, telling her that she would understand eventually. Orumi responded by saying that it was probably better if she didn't understand. Desumi smiled even more at her little sister's sweet reply. Orumi then admitted that the crepes she had just eaten were really good. Afterward, Orumi returned home, still thinking about her beloved older sister. Orumi acknowledged that Desumi had changed. She had become softer, gentler, and more feminine. But it seemed like her sister, like that, wasn't all that bad after all. However, Orumi thought Fudo was terrible and hated him with all her heart. She promised herself that once she joined Gakko, Fudo would be the first one she would kick out. That day, there was a battle between Gakko and Gelato 5 during the fall season. While the battle raged on, Fudo and Desumi had some time to chat together. Desumi told Fudo that her school, Kokutai High School, would be holding a festival the following weekend. Desumi mentioned that her class was running a maid cafe. Fudo was surprised and even looked forward to seeing Desumi in a maid outfit. He said that even if he had to die, he would definitely come. Desumi was happy to hear this and told him to come on Sunday, the last day of the festival, because there was a legend at Kokutai High School. On the last day of the festival, a moon-shaped carving would appear for just 1 hour, known as the Kokute Moon. The couple sitting under the Kokute Moon would have eternal love and become an unbeatable pair. Desumi asked if Fudo thought the legend was interesting, and Fudo said he was intrigued. Fudo felt that he and Desumi were already an unbeatable couple, but he thought there was no harm in following superstitions. The Kokutai High School Festival began with a variety of events, including snack bazaars, music festivals, and other entertainment. Fudo and Hayato attended the festival. Hayato climbed onto Fudo's shoulders, laughing as they greeted the students of Kokutai High. Several girls from Kokute were mesmerized by Hayato. Proudly, Hayato introduced himself as the Blue Gem of Gelato, and the Kokute girls squealed with excitement, taking photos of him. Hayato called Fudo a red mess. Fudo got annoyed and asked what Hayato meant by that. Hayato told Fudo to stay quiet and called him a traitor. He said it was punishment for Fudo attending this paradise event without inviting him. Fudo asked Hayato not to draw attention, but Hayato ignored him, saying that the girls were gathering around and urging Fudo not to be shy, or he would regret it later. Hayato then proudly showcased his transformation into Gelato Blue in front of everyone. His stunt made the girls scream, while Fudo simply walked off, causing Hayato to trip. Fudo went off to find Desumi. However, as he was quietly sneaking away from the crowd, 2 students spotted him and started chasing him. Desumi messaged him that they would meet in classroom 2B, but Fudo replied, informing her that the situation had become a bit complicated. Desumi was confused about what was happening with Fudo. Just then, Desumi's friends noticed her zoning out and told her she needed to help at the shop. Just as Desumi was about to leave, Anna appeared and hugged her. She suddenly read Fudo's message on Desumi's phone. Anna asked if Desumi was meeting her boyfriend, but Desumi denied it. Anna then concluded that Desumi had no plans and invited her to go to the Kokute Moon with her. Desumi was taken aback. Anna then suggested they become an unbeatable couple together. Desumi ran to avoid Anna, but Anna kept chasing after her. In a school hallway, a couple of students were being affectionate and planning to go to the Kokute Moon, but suddenly Kiki appeared and hit them. As a member of the student council, she reminded them that the Kokute festival was meant to promote community spirit, not for couples to be lovey-dovey. The couple ran off frightened. Then Kyoko appeared and commented that Kiki was just jealous because she was single. Kiki got annoyed and asked what Kyoko meant by that. Kiki insisted she wasn't jealous and argued that a lack of discipline would lead to moral corruption, adding that she would go after every couple at the festival. Kyoko called Kiki scary and said that she should leave before Kiki starts chasing her. Kiki was surprised to find out that Kyoko was actually with Culver and Bear, and Kiki called Kyoko crazy for taking him to the school area. Kiki wondered why no one was panicking. It turned out that everyone thought it was just a bear costume, and they were even praising how realistic and high quality the costume looked. Kyoko left with Culver and Bear, telling Kiki not to be too harsh. Kiki got upset and shouted that all couples should just die. Desumi and Fudo had planned to meet at the haunted house. When Desumi showed up, Fudo was stunned. He was mesmerized by how cute Desumi looked. He said that her cuteness went beyond the concept of a maid outfit, just calling her cute and even began to describe Desumi's charm. Desumi blushed and told him not to say that again, pushing Fudo playfully and leading him inside to hide. Desumi apologized to Fudo for how their plans were messed up, but Fudo was just happy to see her in a maid outfit. Desumi blushed again, even smacking Fudo because his words embarrassed her. Desumi served Fudo snacks from the cafe in her classroom and acted as she would when greeting guests at the cafe. Fudo felt like he might be the happiest master in history. Desumi said Fudo was exaggerating, but he tried the snacks and praised them for being delicious. Desumi thought it was impossible for her and Fudo to be alone at the school festival, but Fudo reassured her that they would be able to overcome any obstacles. He was confident they could make it. Fudo then suggested they go to the Kokute Moon together. Desumi agreed with him, realizing why she had been so scared. She confessed that she felt guilty toward her classmates and asked Fudo to meet her at the final festival spot of Kokute. Suddenly, Kiki showed up, intending to mess with couples who were being affectionate at the festival. Desumi and Fudo immediately ran to escape and promised to meet later. Fortunately, Kiki didn't realize that they were the ones she was chasing. Desumi ran out of breath, relieved to have escaped Kiki's pursuit. But then Anna suddenly bumped into her, making her fall. Anna reminded Desumi of her promise to go to the Kokute Moon with her, even though Desumi didn't remember making any such promise. On the school grounds, Fudo noticed that the couples were starting to head toward the Kokute Moon, which meant the time was near. Suddenly, Hayato jumped onto Fudo's shoulders, asking where he had been. He reminded Fudo that he had promised to be his horse for the day, even though Fudo never made such a promise. Soon, students gathered around to take pictures of Fudo and Hayato. Hayato, of course, was thrilled to see all the fans crowding around him. The highly anticipated Kokute High School Final Festival had begun. The Kokute Moon was revealed, and the event would only last for 1 hour. The event organizers invited all couples to gather at the front entrance. Some couples took turns sitting under the Kokute Moon while Desumi kept running to escape from Anna, who was relentlessly chasing her. They ran through the classroom hallways, but Anna wouldn't give up. Desumi was surprised to see how athletic Anna was. They even managed to jump without using the stairs. Exhausted, Desumi stopped and went into the student infirmary, holding the door shut, while Anna was still on the other side. Desumi asked for help from Sanzugawa Kira, the Blood Princess. Kira scolded Desumi for calling her the Blood Princess in the school area. Desumi apologized and asked Kira for help in holding Anna back because she had an urgent matter to attend to. She didn't know why Anna kept following her. Kira refused her request, saying that Boslar had forbidden her from using her powers at school. Desumi begged her to help, but Kira still refused. Desumi then promised Kira a super Boslar doll if she helped her. It turned out Kira had a crush on Boslar, the supreme ruler, and eventually, Kira gave in and agreed to help Desumi hold Anna back. Desumi quickly ran and jumped out of the window. Anna immediately started chasing her, but Kira stopped Anna and told her not to chase Desumi. Anna got a bit intimidated when she saw Kira's face. Kira then tried to strike up a casual conversation with Anna, but Anna challenged her instead, calling Kira a naughty girl. Anna kicked Kira, but Kira easily blocked the kick. Kira remarked that Anna was surprisingly strong. Kira didn't realize that Anna was also a princess-class warrior. Suddenly, there was an explosion, but everyone thought it was part of the event. Desumi felt relieved, as at least Kira could buy her some time against Anna's pursuit. The crowd then started cheering because they saw Fudo and Hayato playing a horse-riding game. Desumi was a little puzzled by the situation when she saw them. Fudo noticed Desumi looking at him, and just then, Kiki approached her, suggesting they go hunt down couples. Desumi suddenly realized that Kiki hadn't recognized her back at the haunted house. Desumi declined Kiki's offer, saying she already had plans. Kiki was surprised and asked if it wasn't the final event, becoming suspicious because she knew Desumi was interested in romance. Kiki got frustrated, assuming Desumi had a boyfriend. Desumi asked Kiki to calm down. Just then, Kiki felt a chilling aura. It was Hayato. Hayato was happy to see Kiki again, but Kiki was scared and ran off. Hayato chased after her, saying he hadn't seen her since the beach. Seeing Hayato running, the students started chasing him too. Desumi approached Fudo and said this was their chance to get on the Kokute moon, but unfortunately, time was running out. Fudo and Desumi hid and tried to figure out how to get to the Kokute moon without being recognized. The fact that Fudo's face was known and many princess class students were attending the school made them have to be extra careful. With only 5 minutes left until the Kokute moon event, it seemed like they had run out of ideas. Suddenly, Desumi heard Kyoko yelling at someone in a bear costume, thinking it was Chulverin Bear. The person in the costume replied that Kyoko was the one who dragged him in, and Kyoko asked why he was wearing such a detailed costume. The person said he loved bears. Kyoko then asked where the real bear was, but the person didn't know. Seeing this, Desumi said that she and Fudo weren't ready to give up just yet. The event organizers then announced that only one couple was left aboard the Kokute moon and time was almost up. Fudo asked if there was anything more they could do, and Desumi said that nothing was impossible for them. They held hands and transformed. Fudo became Red Gelato and Desumi transformed into the Princess of Death. Hand in hand, they casually walked toward the Kokute moon, passing through the crowd of students. The students praised their appearance, impressed by how cool and well-crafted their costumes were. However, they were entertained, thinking it couldn't be the real Red Gelato and Princess of Death, and assumed it was just cosplay. Fudo and Desumi sat together on the Kokute moon, becoming the last couple before the final event concluded. Fudo said that if they were together, there was nothing they couldn't achieve. Desumi called them an unbeatable pair and believed that the day when they could openly date wouldn't be far off. Until that day came, Desumi suggested they continue enjoying their secret relationship, and Fudo agreed. After the festival event, Kiki successfully took down Hayato. Kyoko managed to find Chulverin Bear, and Kira and Ana were both exhausted after their fight. The event organizers also took photos of Desumi and Fudo. In the makeup room, Catapult Snake and Drone Rabbit were talking about the romance between Kyoko, the Steel Princess, and the monster Gakkao, Chulverin Bear. The news confirmed their suspicions about the closeness between Kyoko and Chulverin Bear. They also found out that Kyoko and Chulverin attended the Kokutai High School Festival. Catapult Snake was amused by the love story, but Drone Rabbit reminded her that workplace romance was strictly forbidden, which made things complicated for them. Still, Catapult Snake thought relationships at work could be pretty sweet. Catapult Snake then suggested that Drone Rabbit try dating Mathlock Eagle, but Drone Rabbit didn't like him because he was always boasting. Next, Catapult Snake suggested Raildon Lion, but Drone Rabbit wasn't into aggressive types. Catapult Snake then offered Gatling Wolf as another option, but Drone Rabbit pointed out that Gatling Wolf was too sensitive and fussy. They both realized that finding a good guy was harder than they thought. Catapult Snake was curious about how Kyoko ended up dating Chulverin Bear. They guessed it was probably because Kyoko was still young and misunderstood the meaning of softness. It seemed like none of the other princess class students had romantic stories, especially not the Princess of Death. It was almost impossible to imagine someone like her having a relationship. Desumi returned to the dorm and was greeted by Halka. Desumi looked incredibly happy, and Halka was sure it was because of Fudo. Even though Halka didn't particularly like him, she couldn't deny that Fudo made Desumi so much happier. That day, the Gecko army, led by Drone Rabbit, attacked Gelato 5. When Gelato 5 saw the Gecko forces approaching, they quickly prepared to fight back. However, their sword guns broke, and several Moonlight soldiers suddenly jumped towards them to launch an attack. It turned out to be the work of the Judgment Princess. Desumi, Kyoko, and Kiki were having lunch together in the Gecko cafeteria. Kiki noticed that Desumi was staring at Run Run, the Judgment Princess. Desumi was curious why Run Run always seemed to be alone. Kiki explained that Run Run was a loner who carried out missions in silence. She was also a role model in Gecko. Kyoko commented that Run Run looked incredibly beautiful when she took off her mask. Desumi, intrigued, wanted to talk to Run Run. Kiki advised Desumi not to bother her. Despite the warning, Desumi walked up to Run Run and invited her to join them for lunch. However, Run Run simply remained silent, put her mask back on, and told Desumi to try again another time before leaving her alone. Just then, Drone Rabbit appeared and apologized for Run Run's behavior. She explained that Run Run was part of her team, Team 6. Team 6 specialized in secret operations and espionage, so since joining Gakao, Run Run had been specially trained. Run Run avoided interpersonal relationships. Drone Rabbit also mentioned that she had asked Run Run at least to open her heart to her teammates. Desumi now understood that this was just the way Run Run was. Later, Desumi and Run Run crossed paths in the Gakko headquarters hallway. However, Run Run quickly turned around. Desumi stopped her and handed her an invitation. She asked Run Run to attend an event that evening. The invitation was for a strategy meeting for the Princess series to be held at Desumi's room at 6 p.m. with a mandatory pajama dress code. Kiki, who overheard, thought Desumi was tricking her, and when she heard about the strategy meeting, she assumed Desumi was being serious. Kyoko teased her, especially when Kiki showed up in pajamas like everyone else. Meanwhile, Anna, the hot princess, kept hugging Desumi. Kiki asked when they had gotten so close, but Desumi had no idea either. Kiki guessed the event was probably meant to bring Run Run closer to the group, but she was certain Run Run wouldn't attend since she was such a solitary soldier. The doorbell to Desumi's room suddenly rang. Desumi opened the door, only to be shocked to find Fudo standing there. Everyone was surprised to see Fudo appear by himself. Desumi asked why he was at her room. It seemed like this wasn't really Fudo. Kiki prepared to attack, but Desumi stopped her, knowing that this wasn't Fudo. Suddenly, Run Run appeared from under Fudo's disguise. Kiki was stunned by Run Run's unexpected move. Run Run greeted them and commented on how impressive the readiness of the princesses was. She asked how Desumi had figured it out. Desumi explained that the first clue was that Fudo would never casually take off his shoes, and the second clue was that Run Run's biceps were too small to match Red Gelato's build. Run Run praised Desumi for being sharp. Kiki also admitted that her rival was indeed impressive and asked if Desumi had already done some research. Desumi then made takoyaki for them and invited her friends to try it. Kyoko and Kiki praised the dish, saying it was quite good. Run Run asked what the meeting was really about. Desumi explained that the gathering was meant to help the princesses get to know each other better and form stronger bonds. Run Run asked what the goal of becoming close to each other was. Kiki, wrapping her arm around Run Run, said she understood how Run Run felt. In her view, Desumi could be a bit pushy, but once you attended the meeting, you could just relax and enjoy it. Kyoko remarked that Kiki seemed to enjoy the meeting as well. Desumi offered Run Run some takoyaki, knowing that Run Run had never tried it before. Run Run then transformed into Fudo and said the takoyaki was delicious. Everyone was shocked, and Kiki scolded Run Run for her sudden disguise, saying it wasn't good for the heart. Run Run apologized, explaining that she didn't know how to express herself. They all continued talking with Anna, the hot princess, sticking close to Desumi. They chatted, shared stories, watched TV, and occasionally, Run Run entertained them with her disguises. She transformed into Chulverin at Kyoko's request, and when she disguised herself as Hayato, it made Kiki shiver. Desumi invited the princesses to talk about romance. Kiki remarked that it seemed like all Desumi could think about was romance. Kyoko mentioned that falling in love could boost one's motivation to work. Kiki said that it was convincing, especially coming from Kyoko. Kyoko smiled upon hearing that. Run Run asked what falling in love actually was and what was so great about it. Desumi immediately started explaining the good things about falling in love. Run Run then asked what it felt like. Desumi described it as something that makes every day feel fun and everything seems to sparkle. Run Run realized that Desumi must be in love. Desumi quickly asked Run Run to forget about her love life, but Run Run didn't want to let it go. She was curious who Desumi was in love with and whether she knew the person, but Desumi refused to reveal it. Run Run decided to guess, and she started changing her face into different people. When she transformed into Fudo's face, Kiki immediately said that it was definitely not Fudo that Desumi was in love with. However, Kyoko pointed out that Desumi's face turned bright red. Desumi tried to explain that the heater was too high and quickly opened the window. She then grabbed a scarf and wrapped it around herself, telling everyone it was a gift to celebrate their friendship. Run Run asked if they were really friends. Desumi assured her that they were, and she considered all the princesses her friends. She even made scarves for each one of them. Kiki was puzzled by how much effort Desumi had put into it. Kyoko reminded her that Desumi had previously been part of the craft club. Their meeting ended with them all sleeping together in Desumi's room. However, in the middle of the night, Run Run suddenly left the room. Desumi, who hadn't fallen asleep yet, followed her and asked if Run Run was leaving. She thanked her for coming to the meeting. Run Run expressed her gratitude, saying she hadn't planned on getting close to the other princesses, so she thought she'd leave. But she admitted that she had actually enjoyed it. Desumi understood Run Run's decision and offered that they could hang out together next time. Run Run then suddenly changed her face into Fudo's, which startled Desumi. After leaving the dorm, Run Run looked back at Desumi's room and left with a happy heart. The next day, Desumi and Fudo met again. Desumi asked if the person in front of her was really Fudo. Fudo was confused by her question, so Desumi quickly grabbed his face and ripped his costume, wanting to make sure it was really Fudo and not Run Run in disguise. Once she confirmed it was the real Fudo, Desumi apologized. As winter arrived, Gelato 5 and Gakko faced off in a battle on the snowy peak of Mount Taka. Chulver and Bear laughed as Gelato 5 got stuck in the snow and couldn't move, but it turned out that the Moonlight soldiers were also trapped in the snow. At first, Chulver and Bear didn't believe that his soldiers were stuck, but when he ordered them to attack Gelato 5, they couldn't move because half of their bodies were buried in the snow. Meanwhile, Desumi and Fudo were enjoying a coffee together. Fudo praised Desumi's coffee, saying it was amazing. Hearing this compliment, Desumi gave Fudo a friendly pat on the back, causing the coffee to spill all over his face. Fudo then shared some big news. The book he had been working on for a long time was finally published. The book was titled, "What's the Strongest Insect When Enlarged?" Desumi felt happy and called Fudo amazing. Fudo also mentioned that there would be a book signing event at the bookstore the next day to celebrate the release of his book. He invited Desumi to come if she wasn't too busy. Desumi assured him that she would definitely come, even if she had to die to do so. The next day after school, Desumi's two friends invited her to watch a movie, but Desumi declined because she wanted to attend the book signing event. Her friends were curious about the book Desumi was holding, but Desumi quickly snatched it back and told them that it was an important day for her, so she would hang out with them some other time. Her face turned red, and her friends thought she might have a fever. Desumi admitted she felt a little dizzy, then suddenly collapsed on the floor and started crawling. But she insisted that she was going to the book signing event. Her two friends grew worried and suggested taking her to the student infirmary. Desumi explained that she was sick because she had spent the whole day in the snowy mountains yesterday and had entered a snow house. Her friends were astonished by the kind of life Desumi was leading. Kira, the blood princess, was on duty at the infirmary and sensed that someone was sick nearby. Kira immediately picked Desumi up and told her friends not to worry because she would take care of her. However, Desumi couldn't stop thinking about the book signing event. Kira laid Desumi down on the bed and asked how she was doing. Desumi was still thinking about Fudo, but her body was growing weaker. Meanwhile, Fudo was at the bookstore for his signing event. After a while, Desumi woke up but was confused to find her legs chained to the bed. Kira came in and asked how she was feeling. She assured Desumi not to worry and suggested that she change into a different set of clothes. However, Desumi was still focused on the book signing. Kira quickly undressed Desumi and began wiping the sweat off her. Desumi was embarrassed. Kira commented that Desumi was rarely injured because she was so strong, and this was the first time she had taken care of Desumi. She also told Desumi to let her pamper her. Kiki couldn't find Desumi in class, so she asked Desumi's two friends, who told her that Desumi was probably in the infirmary because she had caught a cold. Kyoko was surprised because it was unusual for Desumi to catch a cold. Kiki thought it was serious and began recounting her own experience when Kira had taken care of her. Back then, Kiki had asked Kira to treat her, and Kira had gladly done so. However, everyone Kira treated was treated like a baby. Her paternal instincts were uncontrollable. Luckily, Kiki managed to escape, but Kira had somehow brainwashed her. Kiki even started calling Kira Mama. Kiki said that although Desumi was her rival, she was still her friend. She was going to save Desumi before she had to experience Kira's hell. Kyoko asked if Kiki was sure she could beat her, but Kiki knew that Kira would be weak when someone was sick. She planned to pretend to be sick to get close to Kira and strike when she was off guard. Kiki would not forget the humiliation she endured when Kira treated her, and now it was her turn to make Kira suffer. Desumi was dressed like a baby, and she asked Kira what she was doing to her. Kira told Desumi to call her Mama. Kira then began feeding Desumi some porridge, and Desumi ate it. Kira was overjoyed because Desumi was eating the porridge so well. Kira asked if it was a pacifier, and Desumi nodded. That made Kira happy, and she called Desumi a good girl. The clock showed that it was almost 4:30 in the afternoon, which meant the book signing event was about to start. Just as Desumi was about to get up from the bed, Kira gave her a pacifier and told her to go back to sleep. Kira also said that she would always be by Desumi's side. Kira then offered to read her a book and began reading a story about boss lore. The story made Desumi more and more drowsy, and she felt like a little baby being read to by her mom. Kyoko and Kiki entered the student infirmary and called out to Desumi. Kira asked them not to be loud because Desumi had just fallen asleep. Kiki thought the situation had gotten out of hand. Kira then asked if Kiki and Kyoko were feeling unwell as well. Kiki pretended to have a stomach ache and Kyoko pretended to cough. Kira immediately got ready to check on them. At first, Kiki thought she had fooled Kira, but it turned out Kira pressed a secret button, causing them to fall into a special room. Kira explained that the bed was too small, so she preferred that place. Kiki and Kyoko screamed in fear. Later that night, Fudo sneaked into the room. He spotted Desumi's bag and wondered if she was okay, since he hadn't been able to reach her and had to search for her. When he opened the curtain, he was surprised by Desumi's appearance. He couldn't understand why she was sleeping in baby clothes. Desumi woke up and asked if he could read her a book again. Fudo immediately started reading it, and the book told a story about how the strongest animal was an ant because it could lift something many times heavier than its own body. Desumi quickly sat up, startled to see Fudo. She then realized how she was dressed and quickly pulled the blanket to cover herself. She explained that her awareness was fuzzy because she had a fever. Fudo asked if she had a fever and checked her temperature by pressing his forehead against hers. But this only made her temperature rise even more. Desumi then asked about the book's signing event and if Fudo had snuck away from it. Fudo replied that actually not a single customer had come. Desumi asked for Fudo's first autograph in her book, and Fudo happily agreed to give it. Meanwhile, Kyoko and Kiki were being read to by Kira and had both fallen into a deep sleep. Fudo thought he heard someone telling a story, but Desumi said he must have heard it wrong. Gekko was about to create the ultimate monster, and with that, Boss Lore was sure that Gekko would soon take over the world. Fudo and Desumi were talking, and Desumi was making macarons for Fudo. Fudo really liked them and called them like mini hamburgers. Fudo told Desumi that he would be doing another commercial soon and handed her the proposal for it. Desumi asked what kind of commercial Fudo was going to do. Fudo explained that it was a wedding ad, just like the other usual commercials. However, Desumi seemed not too thrilled. She then read the proposal for Kishimoto Wedding, titled If You Want to Get Married, where his co-star was the famous star Hashimoto Anna. Anna had once said that among the Gelato 5 members, the one she liked the most was Red Gelato. Some scenes of the commercial included a couple walking into a chapel, gazing at each other in front of the priest, cutting the wedding cake, and the tagline was, if you want to get married, choose Kishimoto Wedding. Desumi said that was the one job she couldn't accept. Fudo thought it was impossible to turn down, especially since the others had already declined. Hayato refused because he didn't want to upset his fans, and Daigo turned it down because he felt his character didn't fit the commercial. So Fudo was the only one left, but still Desumi refused to allow it. Fudo was surprised because Desumi had never been selfish before. Desumi was shocked that Fudo thought of her as selfish. Fudo explained that it was part of his job, but Desumi got upset. It seemed like Desumi was feeling jealous, and she left Fudo. Fudo didn't understand what was going on with Desumi. Suddenly, Haru appeared and said she had heard everything. Fudo was surprised and told Haru that eavesdropping wasn't nice. Fudo asked Haru why Desumi was mad at him as it was just an advertisement. Haru replied that even though it was just an ad, it still meant something. Haru asked Fudo to imagine his girlfriend cutting a wedding cake with another man. Fudo imagined Desumi cutting a cake with another guy and suddenly yelled out as he finally understood what Desumi must have been feeling. Fudo realized how foolish he had been. Haru told him that he still had time to turn down the commercial. Fudo asked Professor Big Gelato for permission to withdraw from the Kishimoto wedding ad because he had just realized that he shouldn't be cutting the cake. The professor didn't understand why Fudo couldn't cut the cake, and on top of that, his request to back out couldn't be accepted since Kishimoto Wedding was an important sponsor. Fudo kept pleading, but Professor Big Gelato explained that Kishimoto Wedding had made a big donation for the Gelato team's combined weapon project, which had been stalled due to lack of funding. The professor also explained that even though it was just an ad, it was an important job for world peace, so he asked Fudo not to make a big deal out of it. Fudo hesitated, but he knew he couldn't make Desumi sad. Suddenly, Fudo got an idea. He decided to make the cake himself, and before the commercial shoot, cut the cake with Desumi. Fudo tried to bake the cake himself, but unfortunately, it burned. However, he didn't give up and kept trying to bake the cake again. Meanwhile, Desumi was still waiting for Fudo, who hadn't contacted her. The Moonlight Soldiers gathered outside the cafeteria door, and Kyoko and Kiki were curious about what was happening. It turned out that Desumi was sulking inside and radiating an intimidating aura. Desumi was upset because Fudo hadn't contacted her for 2 days. Suddenly, there was an announcement for the team leaders and princesses to enter the meeting room right away. Boss Lore announced that the birth of the Ultimate Phantom was near, and it was the ultimate monster created by Gekko, from the negative energy of humans. Everyone was eager for the birth of Ultimate Phantom. Boss Lore also mentioned that he would celebrate the hard work of everyone in gathering the negative energy. Hearing the word celebrate reminded Desumi of the cake, and it made her feel incredibly sad. Boss Lore continued, saying that the world domination would soon come true. Desumi felt so sad that she began to cry, but Kiki thought Desumi was crying because she was moved by Gekko's achievement. The Ultimate Phantom was then released from its tube. The monster looked like a giant baby and only said, "Peekaboo." Kyoko was shocked to see the monster, as it didn't look anything like she had imagined. Kiki also thought the monster looked weak. Kira even questioned if the creation of this monster was a failure. Boss Lore insisted that the monster he created was definitely not a failure. He explained that the Ultimate Phantom was created for one purpose: to destroy humanity and dominate the world. However, the Ultimate Phantom ended up attacking Boss Lore, knocking him down. Everyone was surprised by what had just happened. Soon after, the Ultimate Phantom destroyed the Gecko base. It seemed like the Ultimate Phantom had gone out of control and it flew off, leaving the base behind. Bossler couldn't understand why this had happened. Kiki called the Ultimate Phantom a naughty child who wouldn't listen and said it needed to be punished. Princess Hot appeared and launched her Major Yikes Cannon Flame attack, but the Ultimate Phantom didn't react at all. Princess Beast then showed up, unleashing her Lion Claw Rampage attack on the Ultimate Phantom, tearing it apart. Kira, the Princess of Blood, also attacked with her Bloody Slicer and Run. The Princess of Judgment used her Duan Zui Lai Lun attack. The princesses thought that the Ultimate Phantom would be defeated, but it only laughed and seemed unaffected. The monsters then fired their attacks in unison, which completely destroyed the Gecko base, but still, the Ultimate Phantom just laughed, untouched and unharmed. The Ultimate Phantom then devoured Culver and Bear, making Kyoko cry. After eating Culver and Bear, the weapons that had been attached to him stuck to the Ultimate Phantom's body. This meant that the Ultimate Phantom could integrate anything it consumed. The Ultimate Phantom then started operating Culver and Bear's weapons and aimed them at the others before flying off. Meanwhile, Fudo was decorating a cake he had made with the words Desumi Fudo written on it. Daigo had helped him with the cake, and they had finally succeeded. Professor Big Gelato reminded Fudo that it was time to head to the commercial shoot. Desumi was sitting in the ruins of the Gecko base, imagining Fudo cutting the wedding cake with Anna, which made her start crying. Kyoko was also crying because Culver and Bear had been devoured by the Ultimate Phantom. Kiki got annoyed with her two friends for crying, trying to get them to head to the city to chase the Ultimate Phantom. Fudo kept trying to reach Desumi, but she wasn't answering. Run asked if Drone Rabbit was okay and helped her get up. Desumi ignored Fudo's calls, realizing that she had been foolish. Even at the shoot location, Fudo continued to try to contact Desumi while the commercial shoot was about to start. Everything was ready for the shoot, and Anna greeted Fudo with a smile. The scene of cutting the cake began, but Fudo couldn't stop thinking about Desumi. He didn't move at all, causing Anna to comment that Fudo's hands were too stiff. Fudo couldn't do the scene, and the cake ended up falling. He couldn't do it because he wanted to cut his first wedding cake with Desumi. Suddenly, the shooting location collapsed. The crew scrambled to escape, and Fudo shielded Anna from the debris. Fudo looked up and saw the monster that had destroyed the building, but he had no idea what it was. A TV reporter arrived to cover the explosion at the wedding building. Smoke was still rising from the top, and it was uncertain whether the explosion was accidental or intentional. The Gakko members were watching the news, convinced that the explosion was caused by the Ultimate Phantom. The report revealed that Red Gelato was filming at the location of the explosion. Hearing this made Desumi worry. Fudo told Anna to run and find shelter. He was sure that it was a new monster created by Gakko. The monster said it wanted to destroy humanity. Fudo began crying over the cake he had made for Desumi. The Gelato team arrived and asked about Fudo's condition. Daigo was confused as to why Fudo was facing away from the enemy. Misaki suggested they all transform, but she was puzzled to see Fudo crying. Fudo then stood up, and with the others, they performed their freeze change. Red Gelato with a strawberry scent representing justice, blue Gelato with a soda scent representing courage, yellow Gelato with a lemon scent representing life, pink Gelato with a peach scent representing love, and finally, green Gelato with a pistachio scent representing peace. The Sente Freeze Gelato 5 prepared to fight. They launched their attack on the Ultimate Phantom. Green Gelato blocked the Ultimate Phantom's punch and quickly struck back, while Yellow Gelato used his hammer, Megatron Lemon Crush, to hit the Phantom's leg, but the Ultimate Phantom retaliated with a powerful kick. Pink Gelato shot her arrow, Sky Peach Rain, which managed to push the Ultimate Phantom back. Blue Gelato, with his twin blades, Twin Soda Slash, inflicted pain on the Phantom, but the Ultimate Phantom caught him and tossed him toward Pink Gelato, knocking them both down. Red Gelato swung his Sweet Berry Impact Sword, sending the Ultimate Phantom flying. Then Green Gelato prepared his Vacuum Pistachio Strike, causing the Ultimate Phantom to fall. Green Gelato acknowledged the monstrous ferocity of the enemy. Suddenly, the building collapsed and Green Gelato was hit by debris. Red Gelato was understandably worried about his teammates. The TV broadcast continued to cover the fight and the destruction of the building, still uncertain about the well-being of the Gelatos. The battle was far from over since it seemed like the Ultimate Phantom hadn't even been hurt. The Gelato 5 were all bruised and battered. Princess Beast and Princess Steel approached the Ultimate Phantom, and this could possibly be the toughest crisis the Gelato 5 had ever faced. However, it turned out that Princess Beast and Princess Steel had come to attack the Ultimate Phantom. Kyoko was frustrated and said that she would not forgive the Ultimate Phantom. She immediately activated Iron Prison to entangle the Phantom's body. The reporter was confused as to why the princesses were attacking the Ultimate Phantom when they were both from Gakko. Princess Beast then arrived and started tearing the monster apart. Unfortunately, the Phantom managed to free its hand from the entanglement, grabbed Princess Beast, and threw her. Then the Ultimate Phantom swallowed Princess Steel, causing the iron prison weapon to integrate into the Phantom's body. It immediately wrapped around Princess Beast, who was about to strike, and laughed after successfully trapping her. It seemed like Gecko could no longer control the Ultimate Phantom. The Ultimate Phantom then devoured the wedding cake, transforming its body to resemble the shape of the cake. Desumi saw Fudo, who was still struggling, and suddenly noticed the cake with the words Desumi Fudo written on it. She felt deeply moved and guilty toward Fudo. The Gelato team acknowledged how extraordinary this monster was when suddenly, Professor Big Gelato contacted Fudo, suggesting that they use the combined Gelato Claymore sword. Professor Big Gelato was confident that this weapon could defeat the Ultimate Phantom. Hearing the instructions, the Gelatos combined all their weapons, but after doing so, the Ultimate Phantom wrapped its tendrils around pink, yellow, green, and blue Gelato. Only Red Gelato remained to face the giant monster. Unfortunately, Fudo's serious wounds made it difficult for him to lift the Gelato Claymore sword. Just then, Desumi appeared to help him raise the sword. The sight was almost unbelievable, as everyone knew they were eternal rivals. Fudo was shocked to see Desumi. Desumi apologized for being selfish with him and said she was sure Fudo must hate her. However, Fudo replied that he could never hate her, even if the sky were to fall. Desumi was deeply moved by Fudo's words. The reporter, watching this scene, thought that Desumi and Fudo were insulting each other, mistakenly thinking they were still bitter rivals. Desumi and Fudo prepared to attack the Ultimate Phantom. They both held onto their Gelato Claymore swords, dodging the iron prison attacks. They jumped into the air, and the Ultimate Phantom fired its Chulverin weapon. With quick reflexes, Desumi and Fudo managed to dodge it. Their friends trapped in the iron prison cheered them on. Fudo and Desumi realized that their movements at that moment were like they were cutting a cake. They succeeded in their task, and all of their friends trapped in the iron prison were saved. The viewers at home cheered in excitement at the victory. Fudo and Desumi's families were incredibly proud of them. Kyoko and Culverin Bear were rescued as well. Fudo thanked Desumi, saying that if she hadn't come to help, he might have lost. Desumi also thanked Fudo for making the cake for her, and she said she would love to eat it sometime. Suddenly, the Ultimate Phantom transformed into a small baby monster. At that size, the Ultimate Phantom wasn't as evil as before. The tiny monster even called them Mama and Papa. Fudo and Desumi laughed at the behavior of the little Ultimate Phantom. The reporter, eager to capture the moment, wondered if a friendship might form between Desumi and Fudo after defeating the monster together. However, Desumi quickly switched into battle mode and knocked Fudo out, so the news would continue reporting that the Princess of Death and Red Gelato were still rivals. The Princess of Death declared that she was the embodiment of a cold and cruel demon. Desumi then picked up the tiny Ultimate Phantom and walked away from Fudo, bidding him farewell. They exchanged their goodbyes. The love between Fudo and Desumi was forbidden, a love between a defender of justice and a fighter from the Evil Association.